A beast has been roaming the forest for a week, and 5 adult hunters haven't been able to catch it. But this young man is going to kill it all by himself, with a single arrow, from a bow he can barely draw. And he doesn't plan to shoot the beast. He plans to shoot a tree. The cold strikes first. Park Taemin opens his eyes and sees a ceiling of poles. Snow is falling between them, fine and dry as salt. He raises his hand and freezes. The hand is not his. Slender as a teenager's, dirty fingers with broken nails, and beneath them lies a bow, not a sports carbon bow with a sight, a crooked piece of wood with a sinew string. Taemin grips the handle and understands everything. The draw weight is about 10 kilograms. The balance is off. The string is stretched and will send the arrow to the right. 20 years of archery can't be erased from your muscles, even if they're someone else's. In the corner, a girl is crying. She's about 8 years old. Her ribs stick out under her shirt. She looks up at him, and her eyes are filled with fear. Not the kind you feel when you're afraid of the dark. The kind you feel when you're afraid of your father. Memory floods in slowly, like murky water. It's his sister, Park So-yeon. The former owner of this body used to beat her when he was angry, and he was angry often because he'd returned empty-handed from 4 hunts in a row. On the cot, his mother is coughing. Her face is the color of ash. Tomorrow, the village elder will take the last sack of millet to settle the debt. 3 hungry mouths and not a scrap of meat in the house. And then, inside this 18-year-old body, the archery coach from Daegu awakens. 15 years of 50 shots every morning. 20 years of experience in a body that won't pull a single shot. He does the only thing he knows how to do in any trouble. He starts counting. The bow's intact, 3 arrows. 2 are bent with split shafts. 1 is almost straight, but half the feathers are missing. With these, even hitting a target from 10 paces would be a stroke of luck. All right. He stands up. His legs are shaking. He approaches his sister. She cowers. He crouches down. He speaks quietly and evenly, with the same tone he used to calm the children during training. He says he won't be angry anymore, that they'll eat meat today. He asks her to find 3 straight hazel branches. So-yeon blinks. Then she stands up and leaves, and Taemin already knows his target. A beast surfaces from the memory of his former master, the gray boar, Two-Fang. Not a twisted mutant with the moon's corruption in its bones, of which this forest is full. An ordinary boar, but huge and vicious. Not its tearing through the snares on the northern trail. It's taken 2 dogs. 5 hunters gave up and went after the deer. The boar remained. And this is where the fun begins. Taemin won't go head-on against it. Not with this body, and not with just 1 arrow. The old coach drilled one thing into him. A bow is not a weapon. A bow is a solution to a problem. What problem? To kill the boar. What resources? 1 arrow and knowledge. He knows the boar follows a single trail. He remembers that there's an old pine tree with a rotten core on the trail. A crack at the root. The trunk leans over the trail, and the problem changes. He doesn't need to shoot the boar. He needs to shoot the tree. Before dawn, he leaves the village alone. The northern trail. The boar's tracks are deep. The beast is heavy, nearly 200 kilograms. There's the pine tree. The crack runs half a meter up from the root. The trunk hangs over the trail. If he drives the arrow into the crack at an angle from bottom to top, it will wedge the rotten tree. Not immediately. It will to tilt, and it will collapse when the boar passes beneath it. He steps back 15 paces, assumes a stance, and his body fails him. His shoulders can't hold him up. His hands tremble from the cold. 10 kilograms for this body is like 25 for a normal one. He takes a breath, holds it, aims not with his eyes, aims with his body. Heels, knees, thighs, shoulders. Exhale halfway. Release not with a jerk, but with relaxation. His fingers simply stop holding. The arrow strikes the crack, right on target. The pine groans. Snow falls from the branches. The tree doesn't fall. It slowly tilts. Now to wait. He climbs the neighboring oak and freezes. An hour. 2. His fingers go numb. His body shakes. He counts his breaths so as not to think about hunger. On the 3rd hour, a boar emerges. Gray. Huge. 2 yellow tusks jutting up from its lower jaw. It walks confidently along the path. This is its forest. It fears nothing. The boar passes under the pine tree. The tree sways. A crack. The trunk begins to fall. Slowly at first, then quickly. The beast doesn't have time to turn its head. The pine tree hits it on the spine. Its legs buckle. The boar collapses into the snow. A squeal. A wheeze. Alive, but its hind legs won't move. Its spine is broken. Taemin comes down. He circles around the beast from behind. He pulls out a blunt knife, the base of the skull. He knows where. In 20 years, he's butchered more than one carcass. The knife goes in cleanly. The boar twitches and goes still. Taemin sits down in the snow. His hands are shaking from exhaustion. He looks at the carcass and sees not meat, but 20 solved problems. Fat for candles, tendons for bowstrings, bones for arrowheads, the stomach for a wineskin, the liver to eat first while it's still warm. He ties together a sled from 2 poles and a rope. He drags the carcass through the snow for 4 hours. He falls face first into the snow twice and just lies there. His muscles are burning, but he keeps dragging. He enters the village after dark. So-yeon is waiting by the house. 3 hours in the cold. She sees the sled. She sees the carcass. Her mouth opens. She runs, not toward him, through the village. A minute later, everyone who can walk comes out. 14 people. They stand and look at Gray Two-Fangs, whom 5 adults couldn't catch for a week, and at the boy who dragged him here alone. Elder Hong comes out last, an old man with a cane. For 3 months, he'd called him the Park family's failure. Today, he says one word. Taemin. Just a name, without mockery. The boy nods and sinks into the snow because his legs can no longer hold him up. So-yeon grabs his hand. Her small fingers dig into his palm. She isn't crying. She is holding on. That night, Solim-gol eats meat for the first time in 11 days. Taemin butchers the carcass by the light of 3 tallow candles. He cuts with precision. He separates the tendons without tearing a single fiber. He removes the hide in a single motion. He takes out the liver without cutting the gallbladder. Hunter Kim Chun-ho stands nearby. 30 years in the woods. He is silent. Because that's not how he speaks. No one in the village speaks that way. He gives the liver to his mother. Warm, thinly sliced. She eats slowly, coughs between bites. But she eats. So-yeon gnaws on a rib nearby. Fat drips down her chin. At some point, she leans against his shoulder, like a cat that doesn't trust him yet, but isn't running away anymore. Before bed, he takes the branches his sister brought. He sits by the fire. He whittles. The knife is dull. The work is slow, but his fingers know what to do. A straight shaft, no splinters. Tomorrow he'll find partridge feathers. He'll make 3 decent arrows. In a week, 6. He looks at So-yeon sleeping, at his mother, who is breathing more quietly than usual, at the bow against the wall. In a month, this village will have food every day. He doesn't know how, but he knows enough to make it happen. The morning began with his mother's cough, long and wet. Taemin lay on the bench and counted the seconds between coughing fits. 4, 3, 2. Bad. The intervals are getting shorter. She needs a doctor. There is no doctor in the village. It's a 2-day trek through the snow to the nearest one in the town of Hassan. 2 days she might not have. He stood up. His body ached after yesterday. Every muscle, every joint. 18 years old and a body like an old man's. The previous owner didn't train, didn't warm up, didn't eat properly. He just grabbed a bow and went into the forest, hoping for luck. There was no luck. Taemin stepped out into the yard. The frost stung his face. He did 10 squats, his knees cracked. Then 10 bends, his back barely straightened. Then he stretched his arms out in front of him and held them there, counting. At 20 seconds, his arms started to shake. At 30, they dropped. He now knew the exact limits of this body. The bow's draw weight, 12 kilograms maximum. The range of an accurate shot, 15 paces, maybe 20 if there's no wind. The time he can carry a load, 2 hours before complete exhaustion. That's not enough. For a real hunt, that's pitifully little. So he has to use his head. He went back inside and sat down to work on the arrows. Yesterday he picked out the best branch. Today he needs to make an arrow out of it. The knife is dull. He spent half an hour sharpening it. He found a stone by the hearth. Grainy. It'll do. Once the knife was sharp, he began whittling. The shaft had to be round, smooth, without bumps. The diameter had to be uniform along its entire length. He whittled and blew away the shavings. So-yeon woke up and sat beside him. She watched. She was silent. Then she asked why he was taking so long. Before, he would just take a stick and tie the tip to it. Taemin explained, "An arrow that flies crooked isn't an arrow. It's a stick you throw at a beast." She looked at him strangely, as if seeing him for the first time. Technically, that was the case. By noon, he had 1 arrow, straight, smooth, no fletching yet. For fletching, you need feathers, the right feathers, flight feathers, from the left or right wing, not from the tail, not down feathers. He explained to So-yeon what kind of feathers were needed and sent her to Old Woman Moon, who kept 3 chickens. Chicken feathers aren't ideal, too soft, but they'll do for a start. A hawk or a partridge would be better. He remembered the hawk. In his memory of his former master, there was a nest in an old cedar tree across the stream. In the spring, there would be feathers there after molting. But spring was still far off. So-yeon returned with 5 feathers. 3 were suitable. He trimmed them with a knife. He tied them to the shaft with a thin sinew. 3 feathers, at an angle, with a slight clockwise twist. The arrow would spin in flight. That provides stability. The locals didn't know about this. They attached the feathers straight, or didn't use any at all. He took the tip from an old arrow, iron, rough, but sharp after sharpening. He attached it to the shaft, secured it with sinew and pine resin. Done. 1 arrow, capable of killing. He went outside the village and found a tree with a growth on its trunk, the size of a fist. He stepped back 20 paces, took his stance, feet shoulder-width apart, left foot slightly forward, body sideways to the target. Left hand raises the bow, his right hand pulls the string. 3 fingers, to his chin. No, this body won't reach his chin. To his chest. Good. Aim. Breathe. Exhale. Release. The arrow flew. It hit the growth, 2 fingers to the left of center. He walked over, pulled it out, inspected it. The shaft is intact, the tip is in place, the feathers are holding. He stepped back again, 20 paces, a shot, a finger's width to the right of center, another, center, another, center, another, center. Something clicked inside, not in his body, somewhere deeper, as if someone had checked a box on an invisible list. Accuracy +1. He froze, looked at his hands. Nothing had changed, but he knew. Something had shifted. The system, that very one. It didn't show him windows with numbers, didn't write text in the air. It simply recorded. You hit where you aimed, consciously, 5 times in a row. That counts. Taemin understood the rule. Not every shot counts, only the one he himself declared. This spot right here, this is where I'll hit. And I did. Then it counts. Chance doesn't count. He stood there for another minute in the cold. Then he smiled. The first time in 2 days in this world. Returning to the village, he ran into Kim Chun-ho. The senior hunter was standing at his door, broad-shouldered, weather-beaten, hands like oak roots. 30 years in the forest, and every one of them is written on his face. He stared at Taemin without blinking. Then he asked where the carcass came from. Taemin replied that he'd killed it on the northern trail. Chunho asked with what? Taemin said with a tree. Chunho was silent. Then he said, "That's not how you hunt." Taemin said they hunt however they can. Chunho spat into the snow and walked away. Taemin understood. The senior hunter wasn't angry. The senior hunter was humiliated. For 30 years, he had fed this village as best he could. He'd lost men. He'd lost dogs. He'd brought back meat at the cost of blood and sweat. And now here comes a kid whom everyone considered trash, dragging in a boar that 5 men couldn't take down, alone, with a single arrow. That wasn't respect. It was a slap in the face. Taemin made a mental note. He needed to talk to Chunho. Not now, later, when he had something to offer, not just words. For the next 3 days, he worked. In the morning, he trained his body. Squats, push-ups. He couldn't do a single proper push-up. He did them from his knees. 10, then 15. His hands were shaking, but he counted and kept going. After training, he whittled arrows. By the end of the 3rd day, he had 4, each one better than the last. The 4th one flew almost perfectly, straight, without wobbling. It stuck into a knot in a tree from 30 paces. He started shooting from 30. His body couldn't pull the bowstring back far enough for long shots. 30 paces was the maximum. But at 30 paces, he hit a spot the size of a copper coin. On 4th day, he went into the woods. This time for small game. Hares, partridges, no feet, just work. He bagged a hare within 2 hours, a shot to the neck. The little creature died instantly. The arrow went right through and stuck in the snow behind it. Clean. He picked up the arrow. He examined it. It was intact. He found the partridge half an hour later. It was sitting on a branch. Stupid bird. He approached within 20 paces, a shot to the head. He needed the feathers intact. If he shot it in the body, the feathers would be covered in blood and the meat would be ruined. In the head. Right in the head. Hit. Another click inside. Accuracy +1. He returned with a hare and a partridge. So-yeon met him at the door. This time she wasn't waiting in fear. She was waiting with the expression children have when they're waiting for a magic trick. She knew he would bring something. He handed her the partridge, told her to carefully pluck the feathers, every single one. Feathers separately. Down feathers separately. Tail feathers separately. She nodded and sat down to work. Seriously, like a grown-up. He butchered the hare himself. He removed the skin in one piece. Meat separately. Tendons separately. Bones separately. The tendons will make string for the bowstring. A tip can be carved from the bone, a small one, for small game. No need to waste iron on a hare. A bone arrowhead will penetrate a hare just as well. That evening, the village ate again. Not a feast like after the boar, but they ate. Hare soup with leftover millet. His mother ate and coughed less, or so it seemed to him. After dinner, a woman came to him, thin, with dark circles under her eyes and 2 children in tow, a boy of about 6 and a girl of about 4. She said her name was Bae-gum-hee and that her husband had died while hunting in the fall, and that she hadn't had any food for 2 days. Taemin said nothing. Then he stood up. He went to where he kept the remaining wild boar meat. He cut off a piece from the hind leg, a big one, about 3 kilograms. He gave it to her. She looked at the meat, then at him, then back at the meat. Her hands were shaking. She said she would work for it. He replied that she didn't have to. She said she would work for it. He looked at her hands, thin but calloused. He asked if she knew how to make rope. She said she did. He said he needed rope, thin, strong, made of sinew and hemp fiber. Lots of rope. She nodded. She took the meat. She left. Taemin sat by the fire. So-yeon was plucking the 2nd partridge he'd caught that evening. His mother was asleep. The house smelled of meat and smoke. He thought. He couldn't keep this village going on his own. He could hunt every day, bring back a hare or 2, maybe even a roe deer if he got lucky, but that was just survival, not a life. To live, he needed a system, a smokehouse. If he smoked the meat, it would keep for months. He wouldn't have to eat it all at once. He could stockpile it. He could trade it. An arrow workshop. He makes 4 arrows a day by himself. If he trained 2 more people, that would be 12. If he found decent wood and decent feathers, he could sell the arrows. In Hassan. There are hundreds of hunters there, and everyone needs arrows. Traps. Not snares made of rotten rope, proper traps. Pits, snares, pens. He knew 5 types of traps for large game and 10 for small game. A school. To teach them to shoot. Not everyone, just those who want to and can. Teenagers, they learn more easily. Young bodies, no bad habits, no need to retrain them. He lay down on the bench and closed his eyes. Soyeon lay down beside him. She didn't snuggle up. She lay a hand's breadth away, closer than yesterday. On the morning of the 5th day, he began building a smokehouse. He chose a spot behind the elder's house. There was no wind there, and there was a slight slope for drainage. The smokehouse isn't complicated. 2 chambers, a firebox at the bottom. The smoke travels through a channel into the first chamber, cold smoking. The temperature is low. The meat hangs for a long time, 3 or 4 days, but it keeps for 6 months. The second chamber is higher up, hot smoking, faster, but the meat keeps for a shorter time. Both chambers are needed. He sketched a plan with a stick in the snow. Elder Hong stood nearby and watched. Then he asked what it was. Taemin explained. The elder said that in Solim they had never smoked meat. They always ate it raw or boiled, or dried it in the wind. Taemin said that meat dried in the wind loses half its weight and flavor. Smoked meat loses a quarter but gains a flavor for which they pay triple in Kasan. The elder blinked. Then he said they needed stones. Taemin replied that they needed stones and hands. 2 men came to help, not because they believed in the smokehouse, because they had eaten his meat and were ashamed not to help. One of them was Pae Gyum-hee's brother. The second was a nameless old man whom everyone called Grandpa Cho. They hauled stones from the stream. Taemin laid them out. He mixed the clay himself. His hands were freezing. The clay was freezing. He worked until dark. On the 2nd day of construction, Kim Chun-ho approached him. The senior hunter stood and looked at the stonework. Then he said the wall was crooked. Taemin looked. The wall was crooked. He said yes, crooked. Chun-ho was silent. Then he removed the top stone. He placed it more evenly. He smoothed it with clay. He didn't say a word. He just started laying the stones. They worked in silence until evening. Taemin didn't thank him. Chun-ho didn't explain. The smokehouse was ready on the 7th day. Rough, unattractive, but functional. The 10th day in this world. His body was getting used to it. Slowly, painfully slowly. Morning training had become a ritual. 20 squats, 15 push-ups from the knees, 10 full ones, 30 seconds in a plank with outstretched arms. The progress was negligible. In his past life, he could hold a bow at arm's length for a minute without trembling. Here, 30 seconds was the limit. But the limit was shifting, every day by a second, by 1 squat, by 1 push-up. The body of an 18-year-old responded to the strain faster than that of a 31-year-old. That was his only advantage. He increased the bow's draw weight to 14 kilograms. He found a way. He removed the old bowstring. He twisted a new one from boar sinew and hemp. Stiffer, stronger. The bow became tighter. His shoulders ached after every workout. But the arrow flew farther. 25 paces, 30. At 30 paces, he hit a fist. Not a coin, a fist. For now, that's enough. On the 11th day, he saw her. Early morning. He was walking to the spot where he practiced with his bow, behind the barn. No one ever went there. But that morning, someone was behind the barn. A girl, tall for her age, slender, with long fingers and dark hair tied in a knot at the nape of her neck. She was standing in a stance, left foot forward, body turned sideways. A bow, an old one, cracked, wrapped in strips of cloth so it wouldn't fall apart. The bowstring was made of something like a gut string. The arrow was crooked, no fletching. She drew it back. Her fingers rested on the string incorrectly, 2 instead of 3, and too far from the nock. The elbow of her right arm was raised upward instead of being in line. Her left shoulder was raised. Her back was twisted. Everything was wrong. Everything was absolutely wrong. She shot. The arrow went left and up. It stuck into the barn wall a meter above the target. The target was a palm-sized dot drawn in charcoal. She cursed under her breath. She pulled out the arrow. She returned to her position. She drew the bow again. Everything was wrong again. She shot again, this time to the right and down. She shot again and again. 20 shots, 3 hits on the target, out of 20. Taemin stood around the corner and watched. He saw everything that was wrong. Stance, grip, draw, aiming, release, everything. But he saw something else too. She didn't give up after the 5th miss. She didn't give up after the 10th. She didn't give up after the 15th. She stood in the cold in a thin jacket and shot, 20 times, with a bow that was falling apart in her hands, with an arrow that flew wherever it wanted. And 3 times out of 20, she hit the mark. With that kind of equipment, 3 out of 20 isn't a failure. It's talent. She turned around, she saw him, she froze. Fear. Not like So-yeon's, different. Fear that they'd been caught, that they'd tell, that they'd be punished. In Solim-gol, women aren't allowed to pick up a bow. Tradition, law, unwritten but strict. Her father was a hunter. He died 2 years ago. Her mother went mad with grief. Yoon-bi raised her 2 younger siblings alone. She shot secretly in the barn, then behind the barn. At night, she repaired her father's bow, which was falling apart faster than she could keep up. Taemin came around the corner. She backed away. She hid the bow behind her back. Too late. He had seen everything. He approached, stopped 3 steps away, said that her right elbow should be in line with the arrow. No higher. She blinked. He said to grip it with 3 fingers. Index finger over the arrow, middle and ring fingers underneath. Not 2, 3. She was silent. He said to keep her left shoulder down, not up, down. Otherwise, the bow wobbles when released and the arrow goes off course. She was silent. He held out his hand. She looked at his hand. Then she slowly handed over the bow. He looked at the bow, even worse than his. About 8 kilograms of draw weight, a crack along the upper limb. The string was old. He set the bow down on the ground. He took out his own. 14 kilograms, a new string, 4 arrows with proper fletching. He took his stance. He demonstrated. Without explaining, he demonstrated. Feet, knees, hips, shoulders, left hand forward, right hand pulls, 3 fingers, bowstring to the chest, aim, exhale, release. The arrow hit the center of the marked target. Yoon-bi watched. He handed her the bow. She took it. It was heavy for her, but she didn't say it was heavy. She took her stance, tried to repeat it. Feet correct, knees not. He walked over, touched her knee, bend it slightly. She bent it. Shoulder, down. She lowered it. Elbow, in line. She straightened it. Better, not good, but better. She shot. The arrow flew straighter. It hit the edge of the target. She looked at him. Her face was expressionless, but her eyes. There was something in her eyes that made Taemin look away first, because he knew that look. He'd seen it in his students. When a child who'd been told he was talentless suddenly hits the bullseye, not by accident, because someone showed him how. He said he'd come tomorrow, at the same time, if she wanted. She nodded, once, silently. He turned and left. The following days were divided into 2 parts. Morning, hunting, small game, hares, partridges, a roe deer once every 3 days. He had learned to read tracks, not from his own knowledge, from the memory of the former owner. The man had been a poor shot but a decent tracker. He just couldn't put into practice what he saw. Taemin could. He saw the tracks, determined the direction, speed, time. He went to intercept, waited, shot. 1 arrow, 1 hit. The animal fell. The system clicked. +1, +1, +1. Every deliberate shot, every marked target, the carotid artery, the base of the skull, the eye. He didn't shoot at the carcass. He shot at the target, and the target killed. The second half of the day, training with Yoon-bi. Every evening behind the barn, she came before him and left after, silent, determined. He had her stand in the same stance day after day, the same thing, feet, knees, shoulders. She memorized it with her body, slowly, but surely. After a week, she hit the mark from 20 paces 7 times out of 10. He made her a bow. Not right away. First he studied her hands, the length of her fingers, the width of her palm, the distance from her chin to the tip of her outstretched arm, her reach, her height. Then he chose a tree. Yew. Found it by the stream, not thick, but dense, with a good grain. He cut it down, dried it for 3 days by the fire, planed it, for a long time, carefully. He adjusted the bow's limbs to her draw weight. 12 kilograms, no more. Later it would be more. He carved the grip to fit her hand. Left-handed. She's a lefty. He noticed that on the very first day. When the bow was ready, he gave it to her. She took it, turned it over in her hands, drawn it. Her face changed. She looked at him. He said it wasn't her father's bow. It was her bow. She had to shoot like Yoon-bi, not like someone's daughter. She was silent. Then she gripped the handle with both hands and nodded. That night, Taemin lay awake. So-yeon breathed evenly beside him. Her mother coughed less often. So-yeon was in the house. There was firewood. The smokehouse was working. The 4 arrows had become 8. Yoon-bi made 3 arrows a day after he showed her how. Rough, but functional. The hunt brought meat every day. The village ate. Every day. For the first time in 6 months. But that wasn't enough. Small game meat doesn't keep long, even when smoked. Rabbit meat dries out. Partridge gets tough. We need big game. Deer, boar, or, he'd been thinking about it for 3 days now, the twisted beast. A twisted beast core isn't just currency. It's a pass. To Hassan, to the market, to the middleman. A single core without chips is worth as much as the village earns in a month. But the twisted ones are dangerous, even the small ones. The moon rabbit's bones are hard as iron. The arrow bounces off. The moon fox has 3 tails and poison in its saliva. The moon deer's antlers glow, and that light blinds your eyes for half an hour. Local hunters went after the twisted in groups of 5, and they didn't always return as a group of 5. Taemin is alone, with a bow weighing 14 kilograms, with 8 arrows, with a body that can't run for more than 10 minutes. Madness. But he saw the beast. In the memory of his former master, the moon roe deer, a small, distorted one, the size of an ordinary roe deer, but with silvery spots on its hide and hooves as hard as stone. The carcass is small, but a whole carcass of a small, distorted roe deer is worth 2 sacks of rice and a sack of salt at the Hassan market. 2 sacks of rice is a month's worth of food for the whole village. He knew where she went, the eastern ravine. The stream there doesn't freeze in winter because it flows from a hot spring. The roe deer comes to drink at dawn, every day, to the same spot. You have to shoot for the eye, the only soft spot. An ordinary arrow won't pierce the moon roe deer's hide, but the eye is the eye. 3 centimeters, from 20 paces, at dawn, when the light of the horned ones is at its weakest. He'd been preparing for 2 days. He made a special arrowhead. Narrow, long, from a boar's tusk, sharpened to the point of a needle. He fitted it to his best arrow, checked the balance. Good. On the morning of the 16th day, he set out before dawn. Yoon-bi was waiting by the gate. He hadn't called for her. She was just standing there, with a bow, with 3 arrows, silently. He looked at her. She looked at him. He walked on. She followed him. The eastern slope, a 40-minute walk through the snow. A stream, steam from the hot water in the frosty air. They lay down behind a boulder. Yoon-bi was breathing evenly. She wasn't afraid, or maybe she was afraid but didn't show it. The roe deer came with the dawn. The silvery spots on its coat glimmered faintly. The antlers glowed, dimly, like a dying candle. Beautiful. Taemin caught himself thinking this. Beautiful. And dangerous. If she kicked with her hoof, she would pierce his ribcage. He took aim. Left eye, 22 paces, no wind. The roe deer was drinking. Its head was lowered. He counted in his mind. Left eye, center of the pupil, exhale, release. The arrow flew, a quiet sound, like a click. The roe deer twitched, its front legs buckled. It fell onto its side, quietly, almost silently. The silvery spots faded. They stopped glowing. Yoon-bi exhaled beside him. He hadn't heard her hold her breath. They approached. The roe deer lay on its side. The arrow had entered the left eye, right in the center. The boar's tusk tip had pierced the eye socket and reached the brain. Instant death. He took out his knife. The core of the twisted is located in the chest, between the lungs, the size of a walnut, hard, silvery, glowing from within with a dim, cold light. He cut open the rib cage, carefully. He spread the ribs, found it, removed it, intact. Not a single chip, not a single crack. In the memory of its former owner, local hunters had hacked at the distorted with axes and knives. Half the cores were cracked. A cracked core was worth half as much. Taemin held the core in his palm, small, cold, glowing. 2 sacks of rice, a sack of salt, a month of life for the village. A click inside. Not 1, 2. Accuracy +1. And something else. Twilight vision +1. He blinked. The world grew slightly brighter, slightly sharper. The shadows on the snow grew deeper, the outlines of the trees sharper. He could see better. Yoon-bi looked at the core, then at him, then back at the core. He put it away in a rabbit-skin pouch. They butchered the rest of the carcass together. He showed her. She repeated. The meat of the twisted can be eaten, but it tastes bitter. The hide is more valuable. The silver spots don't fade. In Kasan, they make jackets for the rich from such skins. The bones are hard. They make arrowheads from them that pierce even scales. They returned to the village by noon. Taemin carried the carcass on a sled. On the 17th day, Taemin went to Kasan, 2 days' journey through the snow. He took the core of a moon roe deer, a smoked boar ham, the roe deer hide, a bundle of 6 arrows. He left So-yeon with her mother. Yoon-bi asked to go with him. He refused. He said she needed to practice, every day. 100 shots, 20 at 10 paces, 20 at 15, 20 at 20, 20 at 25, 20 blind shots by sound. She looked at him. She asked what blind shots by sound meant. He said he would blindfold her and hang a pumpkin on a string. The pumpkin swings and rattles, shoot at the sound. She asked why. He said that in the forest, you can't always see the animal, but you can always hear it. She nodded. Hassan turned out to be a small town of 500 houses, a log wall, a gate, guards, a market in the central square, noise, the smell of smoke and roasted meat and manure, people, lots of people. After 17 days in a village where 14 people is a crowd, Hassan seemed like a capital city. Taemin walked through the gate. The guard looked at his clothes and grimaced. A village. A market. Rows of meat, rows of grain, rows of cloth, rows of weapons. A merchant stall selling bullets. Taemin found it right away. A sign made of darkened wood. Chong and Sons. Inside, it was warm and smelled of tea. A man in his 40s sat behind the counter. A round face, small eyes, soft hands. Not a hunter, a merchant. His name was Chong Dae-sik. He looked at Taemin, at his clothes, at his face. He saw the village, poverty, and hunger, and immediately decided that he was looking at prey, not a seller. Taemin placed the shell on the counter. Chong Dae-sik picked it up, turned it over, held it up to the light, intact. No cracks, no chips. A moon roe deer, a small shell, but clean. He said he'd give a sack of millet. Taemin said nothing. Chong Dae-sik added half a sack of salt. Taemin said nothing. In the former owner's memory, a whole moon roe shell was worth 2 sacks of rice and a sack of salt at the fair in Hassan. But the fair was in the fall. Now it's winter. In winter, bullets are more expensive because there are fewer hunters, so the price is higher. Taemin said he wanted 3 sacks of rice, a sack of salt, and 100 arrowheads, iron ones. Chong Dae-sik laughed. Then he stopped laughing when he saw that Taemin wasn't joking. He said it was robbery. Taemin said that was the price, A whole nut without a single crack. In winter, when the last whole nut on the Hassan market was a month ago. Jong Dae-sik fell silent. How does a country boy know about market prices and the timing of the latest deliveries? Taemin didn't know, but he knew how to haggle. In his past life, he'd spent 10 years negotiating with sports officials over funding for a youth program. Compared to that, the merchant from Hassan was a puppy. They haggled for an hour. The result? 2 sacks of rice, a sack of salt, 50 arrowheads, and, separately, for the smoked ham, another sack of flour. Jong Dae-sik handed over the goods with the look of a man who'd been robbed. Then he asked where the smoked meat of such quality came from. Taemin said from Solim-gol. Jong Dae-sik raised an eyebrow. From Solim-gol. From that hole where dogs die of boredom. Taemin didn't answer. He took the rice, salt, flour, and arrowheads. He hired a cart. An old man with an ox for 2 copper coins. The return trip would take 2 days. Halfway there, they stopped him. 3 of them, not bandits, hunters, young men, 20 to 25 years old, strong, with bows and spears. They saw the cart with sacks and a village lad without a weapon. No, with a bow. They saw the bow and smirked. The eldest said that winter was hard and that they needed rice. 1 sack, on good terms. Taemin stopped the cart. He looked at the 3 of them. He sized them up. The first one, the oldest, good bow, 25 kilograms of draw weight, correct stance, experienced. The second one, the middle one, spear, holds it properly, left-handed. The third one, the youngest, nervous, holding the bow incorrectly, will be the first to chicken out. Taemin climbed down from the cart, took the bow, nocked an arrow, didn't aim at them, looked around. A crow sat on a tree 30 paces away, black against the white snow. He took aim. The oldest of the 3 opened his mouth to say something. The arrow flew. The crow fell. The arrow in its head. 30 paces, into the bird's head, the size of a fist, without hesitation. Taemin turned to the 3. He said nothing. He nocked a second arrow. He didn't draw it. He just held it. The eldest looked at the crow, at the arrow in its head, 30 paces away. Then at Taemin. Then at the arrow he was holding. He swallowed. He said that winter was indeed hard and wished them a safe journey. They left. Taemin picked up the crow. The meat was tough but edible. The flight feathers, black, stiff, perfect for fletching arrows. He plucked the crow. He put the feathers away. He left the meat for the old man with the ox. He arrived in Solim-gol on the 20th day. He unloaded the sacks. So-yeon ran out. She saw the rice, a sack, a whole sack, white, loose. She crouched down next to the sack and touched the grains with her fingers, as if they might vanish. Elder Hong came. He looked at the rice, salt, flour, spearheads, 50 of them, iron ones, real ones, with a loop for the shaft. He asked what all this was for. Taemin said it was for the bullet. Hong was silent. Then he said that the last bullet from Solim-gol was 4 years ago. It was brought back by Yoon Tae-seok, Yoon Bi's father. It was his last hunt. He returned with a core and an arrow in his thigh. A month later, he died of a fever. Since then, no one from the village had gone to the distorted ones. Taemin listened. He didn't interrupt. Then he said he needed to talk to the village, to everyone, in the evening. In the evening, they gathered at the elder's house, 14 people. Taemin stood before them, in a normal voice, without drama, like a coach before his team. He said that winter would last another 4 months, that there wouldn't be enough small game for the whole village, that the smokehouse helps, but meat is needed constantly, that bullets are money, and money is rice and salt and iron, that he would go hunting in the distorted lands, not every day, once a week, for small game, moon roe deer, maybe a moon hare if he comes across one. Alone, without help. He won't drag anyone along. But he needs help with something else. He needs someone to make arrows, full-time, only arrows. He needs someone for the smokehouse, full-time. Watch the fire, turn the meat, monitor the temperature. He needs someone to twist ropes and weave snares. Gum-hee is already doing this, but she needs help. He needs someone for butchering. Taemin will teach them himself. Guts, tendons, bones, hide. Don't throw anything away. Every ounce of the animal is a resource. Silence. Long. Then Grandfather Cho stood up. He said he would take charge of the smokehouse. He is old. He doesn't go into the woods, but he can stoke the fire and turn the meat. Then Bae Geum-hee stood up. She said she was already making ropes and would continue to do so. Then a man whom Taemin didn't know stood up. Young, quiet, with a limping gait. Hong-sik. Lame from birth. He couldn't hunt, but his hands were strong. He said he would make arrows if they taught him. No one else stood up. 14 people and 3 volunteers. Not enough, but it was a start. Kim Chun-ho sat in the corner. He was silent. When everyone else had left, he stayed. Taemin stayed too. They stood facing each other. Chun-ho spoke first. He said he'd been coming to this forest for 30 years, that he'd buried 4 of his group, that every winter he lay awake at night wondering who he would lose next, and that the boy who 3 months ago couldn't hit a tree from 5 paces away now takes down the distorted with a single arrow and teaches the village how to survive. He said he didn't understand how. Taemin was silent. Chun-ho said he didn't need to understand. He said he would take on the butchering. He knows knives. He knows the carcass. 30 years wasn't for nothing. He doesn't know how to cut like Taemin, but he'll learn. Taemin nodded. He held out his hand. Chun-ho looked at the hand, then he shook it, firmly. The palm was rough as oak bark. On the 21st day, Taemin began teaching. He taught Hong-sik how to make arrows. First the shafts, then the fletching, then the tips. Hong-sik worked slowly but precisely. His fingers obeyed him. By the evening of the first day, he had made 1 arrow, a crooked one. Taemin showed him where he'd gone wrong. On the second day, Hong-sik made 2 arrows, better ones. On the third, 3. One of them was almost good. Chun-ho was learning how to skin. Taemin cut. Chun-ho watched. Then Chun-ho cut. Taemin corrected him. The angle of the knife, the depth, the direction. Chun-ho cursed under his breath when he ruined a tendon. Then he cursed quieter. Then he stopped. By the end of the week, he was skinning the meat with almost no cuts. Grandpa Cho had perfected the smokehouse. The old man turned out to be a perfectionist. He sat by the smokehouse for hours. He added wood chips. He checked the temperature with his hand. The meat he took out was a uniform golden color and smelled so good that dogs from all over the village gathered at the smokehouse and sat there without leaving. Bae Gum-hee twisted ropes, thin ones, strong ones, made from boar sinew and hemp. Taemin showed her how to weave snares, simple loop traps, for hares, for partridges. She wove 10 in 2 days. They set them along animal trails. They checked them every morning. 2 hares in the first week, 3 in the second. This isn't hunting, it's automatic food gathering. The snares work while people sleep. The village began to change, not quickly, not abruptly, but Taemin saw it. Grandfather Cho straightened his back. Bae Gum-hee stopped averting her eyes. Hong-sik smiled when an arrow turned out straight. Chun-ho no longer spat at the sight of Taemin. So-yeon stopped waiting by the door. She ran to meet him. By the end of the first month, Solim-gol had a smokehouse with 2 chambers, 12 snares for small game, an archery master, a butcher, and a rope maker. A 2-week supply of smoked meat, 3 sacks of grain, a sack of salt, 30 arrows. The preparations took 5 days. Taemin went into the forest every morning. He didn't hunt, he studied. The moonbear's tracks led from the northern slope to the stream and back. Every day, the same route. The beast didn't change its habits. 3 points, a den on the slope, a path through the spruce forest, the stream. The bear came out at dawn. He walked to the water. He drank, returned, sometimes lingered by an old oak tree where it stripped the bark and marked the trunk. Taemin measured the distances in steps. From the spruce grove to the stream, 120 steps. The trail narrows in one spot, between 2 boulders. The passage is 3 meters wide. The bear passes through here every day. This is the spot. He sketched a diagram in the snow. Young B stood nearby and watched. He explained, The first trap, a pit, between the boulders, 2 meters deep, 2 meters wide, camouflaged with branches and snow. The bear is heavy, it'll fall in. But the pit won't kill it, won't even seriously injure it. The pit will hold it back. For a minute, maybe 2. That'll be enough. The second trap, ropes, thick ones, made of sinew and hemp. Pai Gyum-hee spent a week braiding them. 4 ropes stretched across the path, at knee height. When the bear climbs out of the pit and runs, he'll get tangled up. For 30 seconds, maybe 40. The third trap, not a trap. Him, in a tree, above the trail, 20 paces from the pit, with a bow, with a single arrow, a special one, a tip made from the bone of a moon roe deer, hard as stone, sharpened to a razor's edge. 2 fingers longer than usual. It will pierce the bear's hide, if it hits the right spot. The eye. No, the bear has small eyes and will keep moving. Too risky. The mouth. When a bear roars, it opens its mouth, both rows of jaws. The soft palate. Behind the soft palate is the brain. An arrow into the open mouth, through the soft palate, into the brain. 1 shot. He explained to Yun-bi. She was silent. Then she asked, "What if it doesn't open its mouth?" Taemin said it would. A bear that fell into the pit and got tangled in the ropes will be furious. It will roar. Its mouth will be open. Yun-bi asked, "What if you miss?" Taemin replied that he wouldn't miss. She looked at him. She didn't believe him, but she said nothing. They dug the pit for 3 days. Taemin, Chung-ho, Hong-sik. The ground was frozen. The pickaxe bounced off it. Their hands were rubbed raw and bleeding. Taemin worked until dark. Chung-ho worked beside him, silently. He didn't ask why. He saw the bear's tracks and understood everything. On the second day, Chung-ho said Taemin was crazy. On the third day, he said the pit was ready and that stakes were needed for the bottom. Taemin refused. He said the stakes would kill the bear and the hide would be full of holes, and the cannonball might crack from the impact. Chung-ho looked at him as if he were mad. Then he spat and said, "Fine." They stretched the ropes on the 4th day. Thek Gum-hee braided them tightly, as thick as a finger. Taemin checked each one, pulled on them. Good. The bear will tear them, but not right away. 30 seconds, that's enough. On the 5th day, everything was ready. The pit was camouflaged, the ropes were stretched tight. The tree was chosen, an old oak, thick, a branch 4 meters up, convenient, wide. You could sit there. You could shoot from there. Taemin climbed up. He checked the angle. 20 paces from the pit, a clear line of sight. Good. The evening before the hunt, he was sitting at home. So-yeon pressed herself against him. For the first time, she didn't just lean against him. She pressed herself against him. Her small hands clung to his jacket. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. He stroked her head. Her hair was thin and dirty. He'd have to heat some water and wash her hair. When he got back. Her mother wasn't coughing that evening. She lay there quietly. She looked at her son. There was something new in her eyes. Not fear, not hope. Something in between. Taemin left before dawn, alone. Chun-ho was waiting by the gate. He said he would go. Taemin refused. Chun-ho said he wasn't asking for permission. Taemin stopped. He looked at him. He said that if Chun-ho went, he would stand behind the 3rd boulder. Don't stick your head out. Don't make a sound. Don't move, no matter what happens. If things go wrong, Chung-ho runs to the village, not to him, to the village. Because the village needs a hunter, and nobody needs a dead hero. Chun-ho gritted his teeth. Then he nodded. They arrived after dark. Chun-ho stood behind the boulder. Taemin climbed the oak tree. He sat on a branch, bow in hand, 1 arrow, a special one, with a tip made from the bone of a moon roe deer. He waited. Dawn was breaking slowly. A gray sky, snow on the branches, a silence so deep it rang in his ears. Then a sound, heavy footsteps, the crackling of branches. The moon bear was heading toward the stream. Taemin saw him first as a shadow among the trees. Then the shadow took shape. Huge, a head taller than a man, even on all fours, brown fur with a silvery sheen. And jaws. 2 rows, the upper ones normal, the lower ones jutting forward and downward. The teeth long and yellow, 4 fangs instead of 2. The bear walked slowly, confidently, master of the forest. The smell, heavy, musky, putrid. The stench reeked of old meat and wet iron. The bear reached the passage between the boulders. A step, another step, a crack. Branches snapped. The ground gave way beneath its paws. The bear crashed into the pit. A roar, so loud that snow. Taemin held his bow. He waited. The bear thrashed in the pit. Claws scraped against the frozen earth. Clumps of dirt flew upward. A minute later, the front paws appeared over the edge. Its claws dug into the ground. The bear pulled itself up. It climbed out. A roar. Fury. It charged forward along the trail. Ropes. The first snapped immediately. The second held. The third wrapped around its hind paw. The fourth stretched across its chest. The bear jerked. The ropes held. He roared. His mouth opened. Both rows of teeth, wide. Taemin saw the sky. Pink. Soft. 20 paces. A target the size of a fist. Moving. The bear jerked his head, but his mouth remained open. The roar didn't stop. Taemin counted in his head. The sky. Center. Inhale. Half exhale. His hands didn't tremble. Strange. They should have. 14 kilograms of tension. Fingers on the bowstring. Aim. Not with the eyes, with the whole body. 20 years, 50,000 shots. Each one had led to this moment. Release. The arrow flew. Fast. Straight. A quiet sound like a snap of the fingers. It entered the mouth, into the palate. The moon-row deer bone tip pierced the soft tissue and went deeper. The bear snapped its jaws shut. It twitched. Its paws buckled. It stood for 3 more seconds. Its eyes clouded over. The silvery sheen on its fur faded. The bear collapsed. The ground shook. Silence. Taemin sat on a branch and listened to the pounding of a heart. Not his. This body's. An 18-year-old heart that had just killed a creature 20 times its own weight. He climbed down from the tree. He approached. The bear lay on its side, dead. An arrow stuck out of its mouth. 3/4 of its length was embedded. Good. Chun-Ho emerged from behind a boulder. His face was pale. He looked at the bear, then at Taemin, then back at the bear. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again, said one word. How? Taemin said it was a parabola. Chun-Ho blinked. Taemin said he'd just aimed higher. Chun-Ho spat. But this time there was no anger in the spit. The butchering took 4 hours. Chun-Ho cut. Taemin guided. The heart, the size of a fist, silvery, heavy, whole, without a single crack. Chun-Ho held it in his hands and his fingers trembled. Not from the cold. 20 sacks of rice in a single stone. They skinned it whole. Taemin cut along the spine in one motion. Chun-Ho held it steady. They separated the meat from the bones. 200 kilograms of meat. Fat. Lots of fat. Bear fat. They make candles from it. Ointments. Cooking oil. Bile. Bear bile in Kasan is worth more than silver. A cure-all. That's what the locals believe. Claws. 12 of them. Each as long as a finger. Hard as steel. They make arrowheads out of them, or knives. Teeth, 24. 4 fangs. The fangs are made into amulets worn by aristocrats in the capital. One beast, and Taemin once again saw not a carcass, but 30 solved problems. It was impossible to drag. 400 kilograms. Taemin and Chun-ho couldn't budget between the two of them. Chun-ho went to the village to find people. He returned 2 hours later with 5 men, with a cart, with an ox. They loaded the meat, bones, and hide in silence. One of the men, that very same brother of Bae-gum-hee, looked at Taemin and asked, "Is it true? Just one shot?" Taemin said, "One." The man looked at the arrow Taemin had pulled from the bear's mouth. It was broken. The tip remained in the skull. The shaft was cracked. 1 arrow for the moon bear. The man shook his head and asked no more questions. They returned to the village by evening. The whole village came out, all 14 people, plus 3 families who had come from neighboring hamlets over the past week because they'd heard there was food in Solimgol. 20 people stood and looked at the moon bear's carcass. Elder Hong approached. He touched the hide. He touched the heart that Taemin held out to him. The old man held it with both hands. His hands were shaking. He said that in 40 years in Solimgol, they had never seen a moon bear's heart. Never. Not even when the village was large. Not even when there were 10 hunters. No one had ever taken a moon bear. Taemin said the credit didn't belong to him alone. The 3 of them had dug the pit together. Park Taemin wove the ropes. Hong Sik made the tip from a roe deer bone. Chun-ho did the butchering. He simply pulled the trigger. Chun-ho snorted, but for the first time, there was something resembled laughter. That night, the village feasted. The bear meat was tough and bitter from the filth, but after Taemin soaked it in a brine with herbs and roasted it over coals, the bitterness was gone. What remained was meat, lots of meat. Everyone ate. Children who had forgotten the taste of being full. The old people who couldn't remember the last time they'd eaten their fill. Bae-gum-hee fed her 2 children and cried quietly, turning away. So-yeon ate silently and intently, like a little animal afraid of having its food taken away. Taemin sat down next to her. He placed another piece on her lap. She looked at him. He said, "Eat slowly. No one will take it away." She nodded and began to eat more slowly. Yoon-bi sat a little to the side, silently. She ate little. She looked at Taemin. He caught her gaze. She turned away. Chun-ho sat down next to him, with a piece of meat and that look on his face that men get when they want to say something important but don't know how to start. He began by saying the meat was good. Then he said the pit was a good idea. Then he fell silent. Then he said that in the morning he would show Taemin the place where a herd of common deer spent the winter. 6 or 7 of them. They stay together. If you set up a pen, you can take 2 at a time. Taemin nodded. He said he would go with him in the morning. Chung-ho nodded. He stood up. He left. It was more than a handshake. It was an invitation. 30 years of knowledge of the forest. Trails, animal habits, watering holes, dens, lying places. Everything that Chun-ho had accumulated over 30 years, he had just offered to Taemin. Not with words, with action. "I'll show you the spot. Let's go together." That's enough. After dinner, Taemin went outside. It was cold. Stars. The sky was clear. And high in the north, beyond the forest and the mountains, a thin, silvery strip. The rift. He saw it for the first time. A thin crack in the sky, as if someone had run a fingernail across black glass, and beneath the glass there was light. Cold. Silvery. Deadly. The evil came from there. The beasts came from there. The winter came from there, lasting 7 months and taking people one by one. Taemin looked at the rift and thought, 200 years. For 200 years this thing has hung in the sky, turning ordinary beasts into monsters. And no one does anything. The clans trade in corps. The morning of the 30th day began with deer. Chun-ho led Taemin through the spruce forest toward the eastern slope. They walked in silence. Chun-ho didn't talk on the trail. 30 years in the forest had taught him one thing: keep quiet and listen. Taemin listened. The snow crunched under their feet. The wind carried the scent of pine needles and something sweet. Chun-ho stopped. He raised his hand. They stopped. Ahead, in the clearing, stood the deer. 7 of them. Ordinary ones, not deformed. Brown, thin after the winter, but alive. 2 females with calves, 3 males, 1 old one with branched antlers. Chun-ho pointed. The trail they take to the watering hole. Narrow, between the rocks. Set up a pen here, made of poles. The deer will go to the water out of habit. They'll enter the narrow passage. The pen will close. We can take 2, let the rest go. Taemin nodded. Good plan, simple. But he needed help. He couldn't set up the pen alone, not even with 2 people. He needed 4. He asked Chun-ho who else in the village could work. Chun-ho named 3. Park Taemin's brother, the son of the elder, Hong-gil, and a newcomer named Oh Nam-gil, young, strong. He'd arrived a week ago from a farmstead to the west with his wife and 1-year-old son. He knew how to handle an axe. They returned to the village. Taemin gathered the 4 of them. He explained the plan. He sketched it out with a stick in the snow, a pen, poles, ropes, an ambush. The men listened. Oh Nam-gil asked why let 5 go if they could take them all. Taemin explained, if they took them all, the herd would be gone. If they took 2, in 2 months the females would have calves. In a year, the herd would grow to 10. In 2 years, to 15. Take 2 out of 7, and the herd would feed the village forever. Take all 7, and the village would be full for a month, and then go hungry again. Oh Nam-gil blinked. Then he nodded. They built the pen in 2 days. Poles made of young pine trees, ropes from Park Taemin. Taemin showed them how to tie them. A simple design, 2 wings of poles converging on a narrow throat. Behind the throat, the pen. A gate on a rope. He tugged, and it closed. On the 3rd day, the deer went to the water, out of habit, along their own trail. They entered the wings of the pen. Taemin pulled the rope. The gate fell. The deer panicked. A roar, the pounding of hooves, dust and snow. Taemin entered the pen, calmly. 2 shots, 2 males, both in the carotid artery. Both fell instantly. The rest were let out. The females with their calves fled into the forest. An old male with antlers stood by the exit and looked at Taemin. 3 seconds. Then he walked away. He didn't run. He walked away. 2 deer, 120 kilograms of meat, hides, antlers, bones, tendons, everything according to plan. Chun-ho butchered them, quickly, cleanly. He'd learned. The meat went into the smokehouse. Grandfather Cho took it and nodded. The hides were stretched on frames. The antlers were set aside. Deer antlers make good arrowheads, stronger than bone, lighter than iron. Yoon-bi met him behind the barn that evening, silent as always. She was shooting. He watched. 15 out of 20 from 25 paces. Good. Very good for 3 weeks. He said it was time to shoot from 30. She nodded and stepped back 30 paces. The first shot missed. The second hit the edge. The third hit the target. She was learning fast, faster than he expected. Her body was made for the bow. Long arms, flexible fingers, steady breathing. She didn't get nervous when she shot. She didn't flinch. She released the arrow cleanly, as if she'd been born with a bowstring in her fingers. He stood there watching her and thought that in a year she'd shoot better than most hunters in Hassan. In 2 years, better than anyone. If he didn't ruin her with his own pace. If he let her grow. On the 35th day, a caravan arrived from Kasan. 3 carts. A middleman named Moon Hak-soo, fat, in a fur coat, with 2 bodyguards. He had come for smoked meat. Word had reached Kasan. In Solimgol, they smoke hams that taste better than the city ones. Moon Hak-soo tasted it, chewed slowly, closed his eyes, opened them. Said he'd take everything there was. Taemin said there were 6 hams, 10 bundles of dried hare meat, 5 rounds of smoked venison, and the moon bear's core. Moon Hak-soo stopped chewing. The moon bear's heart, from Solimgol. He asked to see it. Taemin showed it to him, whole, no chips, the size of a fist. Moon Hak-soo stared at the heart for a long time, then at Taemin, then at the village. 8 houses, 17 residents, a smokehouse, and the moon bear's core. He named his price, 15 sacks of rice for everything. Taemin laughed, for the first time in his life. Not out of joy, out of audacity. The core alone is worth 20 sacks, the meat another 10. 30 in total. Moon Hak-soo said that delivery was expensive. Winter, the road is bad, a risk. Taemin said that in that case, he would take everything to Hassan himself and sell it to Jong Dae-shik, or directly at the fair. Moon Hak-soo turned pale. Directly meant without a middleman, without his cut. They haggled for 2 hours. The result? 25 sacks of rice, 5 sacks of salt, 3 rolls of cloth, 2 sets of blacksmithing tools, an axe, 2 saws, and 10 meters of iron wire. Moon Hak-soo left looking like a man who'd been fleeced, but Taemin saw his eyes. The middleman was already counting his profits. Moon Bear's core costs twice as much in the capital as it does in Hassan. Moon Hak-soo will make more on this deal than Taemin, but that's normal. For now. The rice and salt were stored in the granary that Taemin had repaired last week. He gave the fabric to Bae Gum-hee. She sewed. It turned out she was an excellent seamstress. Jackets, pants, mittens. The children received new clothes for the first time in 2 years. Taemin had hidden the blacksmith's tools for now. There was no blacksmith in the village, but he had the tools. A blacksmith would turn up. He used the wire to make snares. Wire snares hold an animal tighter than rope. They don't break. They don't rot. On the 38th day, Elder Hong came to see him. The old man sat by the fire. He was silent for a long time. Then he said that people were talking. Taemin asked what they were saying. Hong said they were saying different things. Some say that Park Taemin sold his soul to a mountain spirit. Others say he's been replaced, that the real Park Taemin is dead and someone else lives in his body. Taemin was silent. His heart beat faster, but his face didn't flinch. Hong continued. He said it didn't matter to him. Whatever lives in that body feeds the village. It builds the smokehouse. It teaches the people. In 40 years as village elder, not a single person has done as much for Solim Gol in a single month. He doesn't care who it is. What matters to him is what they do. Taemin nodded. He thanked him. Hong left. Taemin sat by the fire and thought. Rumors. A dangerous thing. If they reach Hassan, the So clan, those who might ask questions he has no answers to. He must be more careful, not reveal too much too quickly. People accept gradual changes. Sudden ones scare them. On the 40th day, he began building a warehouse, log-built, with a stone foundation. He chose a spot next to the smokehouse, convenient. Meat from the smokehouse straight into the warehouse, from the warehouse to market, logistics. He didn't say that word out loud, but he thought it. The whole village helped build it. Even So-yeon carried stones. Small ones, one at a time, but she carried them. Yoon-bi worked alongside the men, silently. Chun-ho chopped logs. Oh Nam-gil carried them. Hong-gil, the elder son, put up the walls. The boy turned out to be a good carpenter. Steady hands, a keen eye. Taemin took note. The warehouse went up in 4 days. Rough, but sturdy. The roof was made of poles and shingles. The walls were caulked with moss. It was cold inside. That was good. Meat kept well in the cold. Taemin hung a lock on the door. A real one. An iron one. He'd bought it from Moon Hak-soo for a bundle of dried hare meat. He gave the key to Elder Hong. Not to himself. Hoon. The old man took the key and looked at Taemin with a long gaze. Then he hid the key in his bosom and said nothing. That was right. The storehouse belongs to everyone. The key belongs to the elder, not the hunter. The hunter brings them. The elder keeps them and distributes them. That's how the village works. That's how people trust each other. On the 43rd day, Taemin realized he needed more arrows than Hong-sik could make. Hong-sik made 5 arrows a day. Good ones, but 5 weren't enough. Taemin used 3 or 4 while hunting. Yoon-bi used 2 during practice. 1 or 2 broke. The supply wasn't growing. He needed another master, or a workshop. He thought about it for 2 days. Then he decided otherwise. Not a workshop, a school, an archery school. Not for everyone, for teenagers. There were 4 in the village, aged 12 to 16. 3 boys, 1 girl. The girl is Yoon-bi, who already shoots. The boys. Hong-gil is 16, the elder's son, a carpenter, strong hands, sharp eyes, can shoot. Park Do-ho is 14, quiet, Skinny, but fast. Runs through the snow like a hare. A scout, not a shooter, but he can be taught to shoot too. The youngest of Oh Nam-gil's sons, Oh Seung-woo, 12 years old, big for his age, broad-shouldered, strong, can hold a bow. Can't aim yet, but that's just a matter of time. Taemin spoke with the parents, explained. 2 hours a day, in the morning, shooting, theory, practice, making arrows. In 3 months, they'll be shooting. In 6 months, hunting. In a year, feeding their families. The parents agreed. Not all at once. Oh Nam-gil said it was too early for his son. Taemin said that at 12, it's not too early to learn. It's too early to kill. It's not too early to learn. Oh Nam-gil thought about it and nodded. School began on the 45th day. 4 students. Yoon-bi was the oldest. She helped the younger ones get into position. Taemin demonstrated. She repeated it. They repeated after her. A chain. The teacher teaches the assistant. The assistant teaches the students. That's how he worked in Daegu. 15 years, the same pattern, a different world, the same children, with the same mistakes. Hong-gil would twitch when he relaxed. Taemin tied a ribbon to his right hand. When he twitched, the ribbon would fly off, a visual cue. Hong-gil saw it. He understood. He stopped twitching after 3 days. Park Do-ho was afraid of the bow. He'd draw it back and shut his eyes. Taemin let him shoot from 5 paces. At a large target, he hit it. He opened his eyes. He hit it again, and again. The fear was gone. The 3rd month. Winter wouldn't let up. The snow was waist-deep. The nights were so long that people forgot what the sun looked like. But Solim-gol was changing. 23 people, 6 new families in the last month. The rumors spread through the neighborhood, quietly but surely. There is food in Solim-gol. Solim-gol is taking people in. In Solim-gol, some guy killed the moon bear. People were coming, skinny, frozen, with children in their arms. Taemin took everyone in. He fed them. He put them to work. Those who know how to chop wood, chop wood. Those who know how to sew, sew. Those who know nothing, learn. No one sits idle. That is the rule, the only one. That morning, Taemin was walking along the northern trail, alone, hunting the moon rabbit, a small twisted one, the size of a dog, hard bones. An arrow bounces off its body, but its eyes are soft, and its ears, thin, long ears in which a silvery light pulsates. An arrow at the base its head pierces the skull. He walked quietly, the hare's tracks in the snow, large, deeper than usual. He followed the trail for an hour. Then he heard it. Not the hare, a roar, distant, heavy, and another sound, thin, high-pitched, a scream. Human. Taemin froze. The roar repeated. Closer. It was the moon bear, not the one he had killed, another one. A different voice, higher, younger, and a scream. Taemin ran. His body didn't want to run. His muscles were burning after 10 minutes. The cold air cut into his lungs. But he ran. Through the spruce forest, across the ravine. He ran out into a clearing. He saw it. The moon bear. Young, smaller than the first one, 200 kilograms, but fast, angry. It was chasing someone. A creature was running through the snow, fast, weaving between the trees. A human? No, not quite. A girl, young, tangled silver-gray hair. On her feet? No, on her paws. Bare feet, but not human. Pads like a cat's, claws instead of nails. And eyes, round, yellow, vertical pupils. She was running. The bear was chasing her. She was faster but running out of breath. Blood on her right side. A long gash from shoulder to hip, ragged. The bear's claws. She stumbled, fell. The bear leaped. Taemin didn't think. 20 years of training. The body acts faster than the mind. The arrow on the string, the draw, the sight. The bear in the air, its mouth open. 25 paces. The target is moving. down and forward. He made an adjustment. For the movement, for the wind, for the distance. Release. The arrow entered the bear's left eye, not the mouth, the eye. The eye is smaller. But the bear was moving forward and the eye was right in front of him. A straight line. The bear twitched in midair, its paws splayed. It fell half a meter from the girl, crashed into the snow. It twitched, then fell silent. The girl lay on her back and looked at the dead bear, then at Taemin. Yellow eyes, wide open. There was no fear in them. There was surprise. Taemin approached. The bear was dead, an arrow in its eye. The tip had reached the brain, clean. He turned to the girl. She tried to stand up. She couldn't. Blood was flowing heavily from a cut on her side. He took off his jacket, teared his undershirt into strips, bandaged her. She hissed through clenched teeth. She wasn't screaming, she was hissing like a cat. He noticed. Fangs, slightly longer than a human's, ears, slightly sharper. And that sound, a low, guttural growl as he tightened the bandage. She wasn't purring with pleasure, she was growling in pain, quietly, restrained. A half-beast. He had read about this in the memories of her former owner, people with the blood of the distorted, not mutants, not monsters, clans that live deep in the forests and shun humans. Mountain lynxes, foxes, badgers, deer. They have animal features and human minds. People fear them. Beasts do not accept them. They belong nowhere. She said her name, Cho-ran. Her voice was hoarse, low for a girl. He told her his. She asked why he had helped her. He replied that she was bleeding to death. She said that people usually run away from half-beasts, or shoot them. He replied that he'd shot the bear, not her. She fell silent. Then she snorted. Briefly, it was almost a laugh. He helped her to her feet. She's heavy, heavier than she looks. The muscles beneath her skin are dense, strong. A hunter's body. She leaned on his shoulder and hissed with every step. The cut is deep. She needs stitches. She needs herbs. She needs a healer. Who isn't there? He carried her to the village. It took 3 hours. She asked him several times to leave her behind. He didn't. The village met them with silence, then with screams. A half-beast. In the village, women grabbed their children and took them into their homes. Men came out with axes. Nam-gil stood at the gate, broad-shouldered, an axe in his hand, a stony face. Taemin stopped. He looked at Nam-gil. He said that this woman was wounded, that she needed help, that he was carrying her to his house. Nam-gil said that half-beasts were not allowed into the village. Taemin said that in this village, they are allowed in. Nam-gil didn't move. Taemin looked him in the eyes, calmly, without anger, without defiance. And he said that Che-ran was wounded, and that every minute they stood there was a minute she was losing blood. And that if Nam-gil wanted to discuss who to let into the village, they would discuss it, after he bandaged the wound. Nam-gil stood there for another 3 seconds. Then he stepped back. Taemin walked through. Che-ran hung on his shoulder and said nothing. Her nails dug into his arm through the fabric. It hurt, but he didn't flinch. At home, he laid her down on the bench. His mother stood up and gasped. So-yeon hid behind her mother. Taemin washed the wound. It was long, from shoulder to hip. Fortunately, not deep. The claws had slid along his ribs without piercing them. But there was a lot of blood. He washed it, bandaged it. Pine resin on the wound instead of ointment. Not ideal. But it would stop the infection. Che-ran lay there staring at the ceiling. Her yellow eyes glowed faintly in the semi-darkness, like embers. So-yeon peeked out from behind her mother. Curiosity overcame her fear. She asked why her aunt had eyes like that. Taemin said her aunt had the blood of a mountain lynx. So-yeon thought for a moment and asked if her aunt could see in the dark. Cho-ran turned her head. She looked at the girl. She said she could. So-yeon said that was cool. Cho-ran blinked, the first human child who had said, "That's cool" to her, instead of screaming and hiding. That evening, Elder Hong arrived. His face was grave. He sat by the fire. He was silent for a long time. Then he said the village was unhappy. There was a half-beast in the house. People were afraid. They said the twisted were drawn to half-beasts, that the beasts sense their blood and will come. Taemin said it was superstition. Hong said that whether it was superstition or not, people believed it, and if people believed it, then it was a reality that had to be reckoned with. Taemin thought for a moment. Then he said that Cho Ran would stay until she recovered. It was not up for discussion. When she recovered, she would decide for herself. If she wants to leave, she'll leave. If she wants to stay. Hong raised an eyebrow. Taemin said that if she wants to stay, he'll find a way. Hong left, shaking his head. Che Ran was healing quickly, faster than a human. On the 3rd day, she got up. On the 5th, she was walking. On the 7th day, she went outside. The village watched. She stood in the courtyard, barefoot in the snow. She wasn't cold. The blood of a mountain lynx. Tall, strong. Her yellow eyes squinted in the sun. Her hair was silvery gray, thin stripes on her cheeks, like a scar. No, like whiskers, lynx markings. So Yan came out to her, took her hand. Che Ran looked down at the small hand in her palm, a clawed palm and childish fingers. She didn't pull her hand away. She stood there, and something in her face cracked. Not on the outside, on the inside, like ice where the first crack has appeared. Taemin stood by the door and saw it. That evening, Che Ran sat by the fire and ate venison. A lot, greedily, with a hunger that had lasted more than a week. Between bites, she told her story. The Mountain Lynx clan lives on a pass 3 days' journey to the north. 20 families. They banished her a year ago. She was too much like a human. She spoke like a human. She thought like a human. She walked on 2 legs more often than on 4. The clan elder said she was a disgrace, that a lynx who wanted to be human was worse than a human. She left. She lived alone for a year. In the forest, she hunted, with her bare hands and claws. She ate raw meat. She slept in the trees. A bear found her yesterday. She ran, not out of fear, out of exhaustion. A year of solitude drains your strength. She said she didn't know where to go. Taemin was silent. Then he said she didn't need to go anywhere. She looked at him. He said he would show her where to sleep in the morning. The 4th month. Winter began to retreat, not quickly, drop by drop. The icicles on the roofs grew longer. During the day, the snow thawed. At night, it froze again. But the days grew half an hour longer. People could feel it. 35 people lived in Solemgol. 10 families, 3 loners, and Cho Ran, who was neither family nor a loner, but something in between. Taemin was counting. Supplies. Enough smoked meat for 6 weeks. Rice for 4. Salt for 2 months. The flour was gone. Arrows. 40 in reserve. Hong Sik made 6 a day. Yoon Bi, 3. Hong Gil started making 2. 11 arrows a day. -5 or 6 for hunting and practice. The supply is growing, slowly but surely. On the morning of the 5th day of the 4th month, a woman arrived at Solemgol, alone, on foot, through the snow, dressed in a gray robe down to her ankles, with a basket on her back, her face covered with a scarf. She walks slowly, steady, like someone who has been walking for a long time and is used to walking. Chun Ho met her at the gate. He asked who she was and where she was from. She said her name was Nam Sol, that she was a healer, that she was coming from the south, that she needed a place to stay for the night. Chun Ho took her to Taemin. Taemin saw her hands. She removed the scarf from her face. Delicate, pale, dark, deep eyes, 24 years old, looks 30. Fatigue ages her, but her hands, burns, from her wrists to her elbows, both hands, old, healed scars, pink, shiny. The skin was tight and her fingers slightly crooked, but they worked. She held a basket with them, firmly. The basket contained herbs, dried, tied in bundles, roots, bark, powders in small bags, needles, thin, copper, for cauterization and acupuncture. Taemin understood immediately. A monastery, the mountain monastery of Cheongwan. He had heard of it from the memories of his former master, a convent where they taught medicine. 4 years ago, it was burned down. People from the Kim clan. No one knew why. Or they knew but kept quiet. Nam Sol was from there. She survived. The only one. Burns on her hands from the burning beams when she pulled her sisters from the fire. She didn't pull them out. Taemin didn't ask. She didn't tell him. For now, he gave her food. A place by the fire. She ate in silence. Carefully. In small bites. Like someone used to making food last. After eating, she asked if there were any sick people. Taemin led her to his mother. Nam Sol examined her. At length. She felt the pulse on both wrists. She looked at her tongue. Eyes. Nails. She listened to her chest, pressing her ear against it. Then she said the lungs were weak. Chronic dampness. Not fatal. But herbs are needed. A warm drink every day. Honey, if there is any. There is no honey. Taemin said he would find some. Nam Sol took 3 bundles of herbs out of the box. She brewed them. She gave my mother to drink. My mother drank and grimaced. Bitter. But by evening, the cough had eased. For the first time in 3 months, So-young looked at Nam Sol as if she were a sorceress. Taemin looked at her and saw something else. When the fire in the hearth flared up brighter than usual, Nam Sol flinched, abruptly, with her whole body. Her hands flew up to her face, an instant reflex. Then they dropped. She steadied her breathing, smiled, said it was a draft, not a draft, the fire. She was afraid of open flames. Taemin remembered. Nam Sol stayed. No discussion, no conditions. She's a doctor. There are 35 people in the village. Not a single doctor. The equation solved itself. Taemin settled her in a house next to the elder's house. It was empty. The former owners had left 2 years ago. The walls were intact. The roof was leaking. He repaired the roof in 2 days. Inside, he set up a bed, a table, shelves for herbs. And then he did what he did. He rebuilt the hearth, completely. 3 days of work. Chun-ho helped with the stones and didn't understand why. Taemin built a double wall of stone and clay around the hearth, a tall one, higher than a person's head. He routed the chimney not through the roof but through the wall, outward. The fire burned behind the wall. Heat came through, no light. The room was warm, and no flame was visible, not a single glimmer, not a single flicker. Chun-ho asked why it had to be so complicated. Taemin replied that it was warmer this way. Chun-ho looked at him. He didn't believe it, but he said nothing. Nam Sol entered her pharmacy in the evening. She stopped at the threshold. She looked at the hearth, at the wall around it, at the room that was warm and had no fire. She stood there for a long time, a minute, 2. Then she slowly sank to the floor. She sat down. She placed her hands on her knees, burned hands, with scars. She looked at the wall behind which a fire burned that could not be seen, and she was silent. Taemin stood in the doorway. He didn't come in. He didn't speak. He waited. She raised her head, looked at him. Her eyes were wet. She said one word, "Thank you," quietly, so quietly that he probably read her lips. He nodded and left. Nam Sol began to treat the village. Her mother's cough grew even lighter. A week later, her mother got up. For the first time in 4 months. She didn't stand long, 5 minutes, holding onto the wall, but she stood. So-young cried. Taemin didn't cry, but he went outside and stood in the cold until his face froze. Pae Gum-hee had a bad tooth. Nam Sol pulled it out, cleanly, quickly. Pae Gum-hee screamed, but an hour later, she was already smiling. Grandpa Cho's joints ached. Nam Sol gave him acupuncture. Grandpa Cho sat there and cursed quietly while thin copper needles stuck out of his knees. Then he stood up and walked around and said his legs didn't hurt for the first time in 10 years. And he cried. The old man stood in the middle of the village and cried because his knees didn't hurt. Nam Sol stood beside him and didn't smile. She didn't know how to rejoice in someone else's health. She only knew how to work. Taemin saw this. He saw how she worked until dark, how little she ate, how she didn't sleep, how she woke up every morning and checked on the patients first thing, how her hands trembled when she was near the fire, how she froze when someone dropped dishes with a crash, how she looked away when the children laughed. She wasn't living. She was merely functioning. The difference was enormous. He didn't yet know how to fix it, but he knew he would try. Around the same time, something else happened. Moon Hak-soo came again. 3 carts. He took the smoked meat and 2 small moon rabbit cores that Taemin had obtained over the past month. He brought rice, salt, iron, and conversation. He sat by the fire in the elder's house and said that people in Hassan were talking about Solin Gol, not just talking, discussing. Guildmaster Hassan, So-Guan, had heard about the cores. He'd heard about the hunter who takes down the twisted with a single shot. He'd heard about the smoked meat that costs more than the cities. So-Guan doesn't like it when someone trades without his knowledge. All core trading in the province goes through his people, through his shops, at his prices. Solin Gol is trading around him. That's a problem. Taemin listened. He was silent. Then he asked what So-Guan was going to do. Moon Hak-soo said nothing for now, but the word "for now" was spoken with emphasis. For now. Taemin nodded. Moon Hak-soo left. Taemin sat and thought. So-Guan, guildmaster, head of the So clan's junior house. Not a bandit, not a fool, a smart man who spent 30 years building a system. A monopoly on cores, a monopoly on buying up supplies, a monopoly on trade.
All the hunters in the province sell to him, at his prices. He gives them enough so they don't revolt, and takes enough so they never become free. The system. Taemin was breaking it. Not on purpose, just by existing. A village that sells directly, bypassing the guildmaster, is a crack in the monopoly. If one village can do it. The 5th month. Spring arrived, as always in Haedong, not with warmth, but with mud. The snow melted and turned the roads into rivers. The roofs leaked. The walls grew damp. But the days grew long, and birds began to sing in the forest. 42 people lived in Solin Gol, 12 families, 5 singles. Cheran, Nam-sol. Taemin looked at the village and saw that it was no longer a village. It was something else. Not yet a collective, not yet a settlement, but no longer just 8 houses where people ate once every 2 days. The smokehouse was working every day. The warehouse was full. The snares were checked in the morning and in the evening. The archery school had 4 students, plus Yun B, who was no longer a student but an assistant. Nam-sol's clinic was open from dawn. Hong Sik's bow-making workshop with his apprentice.
Bai Gum-hee and 3 women sewed and twisted ropes. A system. Alive. Functioning. In the spring, the hunt changed. The animals came out of hibernation. The distorted ones, too. Moon hares appeared more often. Moon foxes showed up by the southern stream. Taemin went after them twice a week. With Cho ran. She led. He shot. The pair worked perfectly. Her hearing, his accuracy. In a month, they took 4 moon hares and 1 moon fox. 5 bullets. All intact. The system clicked steadily. His accuracy grew. His twilight vision sharpened so much that Taemin could see in the semi-darkness almost as well as in daylight. His draw weight increased. His body finally began to catch up with his skill. He drew 18 kilograms, then 20, then 22. The arrow flew further. 40 paces, 50. At 50, he could hit a coin. At 60, a fist. His body was changing. His shoulders broadened. His arms grew stronger. His back straightened. He was no longer a skinny boy. 18 years old, and his body finally matched what was inside. On the 17th day of the 7th month, a convoy arrived in the village. Not Moon Hak-soo, someone else. 3 carts, 10 men, guards with spears, a flag, blue with a white crane. The So clan. Taemin stood by the gate and watched the convoy enter. Chun-ho stood nearby, with an axe, out of sight, tucked behind his belt, just in case. A man stepped out of the first cart, about 30 years old, slender, wearing an expensive robe. with a sword at his belt, a smooth face, intelligent eyes, a servant of the So clan, a representative. His name was Cho Hyun-tae. He said he had come from Guildmaster So Guan with a proposal. Taemin invited the elders into the house. They sat down. Tea, which Nam Sol had brewed from dried herbs. Cho Hyun-tae tasted it, approved, then got down to business. Guildmaster So Guan is offering Solim Gol a contract. All kernels are to be sold exclusively through the guild, at a fixed price. The guild takes the kernels, pays the standard rate. The village receives stability and protection. Taemin asked what the price was. Cho Hyun-tae named it. Taemin did the math in his head. 60% of the market price. The guild takes 40%. For what? For purchasing, for delivery, for protection. What kind of protection? Cho Hyun-tae smiled. He said the roads were dangerous, bandits, deformed ones. Who knows what might happen to the convoy on the way to Hassan? That wouldn't happen with the guild. Taemin listened. His face was calm. Inside, cold anger. This isn't an offer. It's extortion. Pay 40% or you'll have problems. He said he'd think about it. Cho Hyun-tae said there was no point in thinking about it for long. The guildmaster is a patient man, but his patience isn't infinite. They left. Taemin sat in the elder's house. Hong sat across from him. Chun-ho stood by the wall. They were silent. Then Hong said that the So clan was not to be trifled with, that the villages that refused were burned, not by the distorted, by people. Taemin nodded. He knew. He asked how much time they had. Hong said that So Guan expected an answer by fall. Summer. 4 months. In 4 months, they had to become strong enough so that refusal wouldn't mean death, or find a way to say yes so that it wouldn't mean slavery. Taemin chose the third option, to become so useful that destroying them would cost more than making a deal. He started working, every day, from morning till night, hunting, training, construction, school, accounting, planning. Yoon Bi shot from 40 paces and hit 8 out of 10. Hong Gil hit 7 out of 10 from 25 paces. Even Oh Seong-woo Jr. began to hit consistently. Taemin brought the number of shooters up to 8. 4 students from the first intake, plus 4 new ones from the arriving families. 2 boys, 2 girls. He made no distinction. Anyone who wants to and can shoot does so. Gender doesn't matter. The village grumbled. He didn't listen. Che Rang brought 2 from the forest. A 10-year-old fox cub of a boy, a 12-year-old badger girl. Both half-beasts. Both lonely. The boy lost his family a year ago. The girl had run away from people who kept her in a cage and put her on display for coins at fairs. Taemin settled them in a dugout next to Che Ran. The village grumbled even louder. Oh Nam-gil came in the evening. He said that half-beasts were one thing, half-beast children were another. People were afraid. Taemin said that people are always afraid of what they don't know, and that the fox boy can see in the dark better than any lantern, and that the badger girl can dig a burrow in frozen ground with her bare hands, and that both are hungry, and both need a roof over their heads. Oh Nam-gil was silent for a moment. Then he said that his son, Sung-woo, had played with the fox in the morning, and that the fox cub had beaten him at tag 3 times in a row, and that Sun-woo wanted to know how it ran so fast. Taemin said that was a good question. Oh Nam-gil snorted and left. The 6th month, summer. The heat that lasts 2 months in Haedong and squeezes out of people everything that winter didn't take away. Tea. Taemin was building. A second smokehouse, bigger than the first, with 3 chambers, cold, warm, hot. Grandpa Cho was overseeing the construction. Yes, overseeing. The old man who could barely walk 6 months ago was now commanding 4 builders and hitting them on the hands with a stick when they laid the stones crookedly. Taemin watched and didn't interfere. People grow when they're allowed to grow.
The arrow workshop expanded. Hong Sik and 2 apprentices made 15 arrows a day. High-quality ones, with the correct fletching, with iron tips. Solim Gol arrows. Taemin sent 20 of them with Moon Hak-soo to sell in Hassan. They were gone in an hour. The hunters in town fought over them, because Solim Gol flew straight and stuck right where you aimed. Moon Hak-soo arrived a week later and ordered 100. Bae Gum-hee set up a sewing workshop. 4 women, jackets, pants, mittens, made from deer hides, from rabbit skins, from the hide of a silver-spotted roe deer for wealthy customers. Nam Sol planted a garden behind the pharmacy. Herbs, roots, berries, wild onions, garlic. She would go into the forest and return with armfuls of greens. She dried them, sorted them, arranged them on shelves. She took on an apprentice, Oh Nam-gil's wife, a quiet young woman with a baby in her arms. She learned to distinguish herbs while the child slept in the cradle that Taemin had hung in the apothecary. On the 19th day of the 6th month, Taemin sat on the roof of the warehouse and looked out at the village. No, at the settlement. 52 people, 2 rows of houses, a smokehouse, a warehouse, a pharmacy, an arrow workshop, a sewing workshop, a shooting range, deer pens, snares on 100 trails. The 7th month. Autumn struck early. The leaves had turned yellow in a week. The nights had grown cold. The first frost had settled on the roofs. Taemin knew that winter would come quickly. His second winter in this world, but not like the first. He had faced the first with a single arrow and an empty house. He would face the second with a full warehouse and 50 people behind him. So Guan didn't wait for autumn. He struck first, not with swords, with money. The first blow, Moon Hak-soo stopped coming. Without explanation reason, he simply didn't arrive on time. And he didn't arrive the following week either. Taemin sent a messenger. The messenger returned with a reply. Moon Hak-soo is sorry. Business. The road. He's busy. Can't make it. Taemin understood. So Guan had either bought out or intimidated the middleman. The distribution channels were cut off. There was meat. There were testicles. No one to sell them to. The second blow. Rumors. Word spread through the surrounding villages. A half-beast lives in Solim Gol. They welcome evil spirits there. Filth attracts filth. The twisted ones will come. 3 families who had planned to move in changed their minds. 1 family that had already been living there left. 5 people. The house is empty. The third blow. I owe us. It turned out that the original owner of this body had borrowed money from a moneylender in Kasan 2 years ago. Not much. A sack of millet and a piece of iron. He signed the IOU with a cross because he couldn't write. Over 2 years, the debt tripled. With interest. The moneylender sold the IOU to the So clan. Now the So clan owned the debt, which, under Goryeo law, gave them the right to take the debtor's house and land. Cho Hyun-tae arrived again, alone, without guards. He was smiling. He placed the IOU on the table. He said that the guildmaster understood that times were hard, that the debt could be forgiven if Solim Gol signed a contract with the guild. Taemin looked at the promissory note, the cross at the bottom, crooked, the hand of a man who was no longer there. He looked up at Cho Hyun-tae. He asked how much time. Cho Hyun-tae said a month. He left. Taemin sat in the elder's empty house. Hong had gone to sleep. Chun-ho sat across from him. He was silent. The silence lasted a long time. Then Chun-ho said he had to sign, that you don't mess with the clan, that 40% is better than nothing, better than burned down houses and dead children. Taemin was silent. He was thinking. 3 strikes. Distribution channels, rumors, debt. Classic. He'd seen this in his past life. When officials wanted to take his section's gym for commercial lease, the same methods. Cut off funding, launch audits, find a piece of paper. Back then, he found a way out. A sponsor. An outsider who invested money and reaped the benefits. Here, too, he needed an outsider. Not Moon Hak-soo. They'd broken him. He needed someone So Guan couldn't break. Taemin thought for 2 days.
On the third day, he set off for Hassan, alone, on foot, a 2-day journey. Chun Ho wanted to go with him. Taemin refused. He said Chun Ho was needed here more. Yoon Bi stood by the gate, silently, a bow on her back, 3 arrows. She didn't ask if she could. She just stood there. Taemin looked at her, at the bow on her back, at her expressionless face. She was to go with him or follow him. 2 choices. He nodded. She walked beside him. They walked in silence for 2 days. Yoon Bi didn't need to talk. Neither did he. They walked. They ate dried meat. They slept by the fire. She kept watch the first half of the night, he the second, as if they'd done it 100 times. In Hassan, Taemin didn't go to the market. He went to a tea house on the main street. Merchants gathered there, real ones, not middlemen like Moon Hak-soo, traders who transported goods to the capital. He sat down, ordered tea. Yoon Bi sat at the next table, bow under the table, eyes on the door. Taemin listened to the conversations. An hour, 2. The merchants discussed prices, roads, cannonballs, hides, grain. He waited. At the 3rd hour, he heard a name, Kwon Man-sik, a merchant from the capital. He had come to Hassan for cannonballs for the royal arsenal. The crown was buying up cannonballs for the armorers. Kwon Man-sik was dissatisfied. Prices in Hassan were inflated. The quality of the cannonballs is poor. Half of them are cracked. So Guan controls the market and sets whatever price he wants. Kwon Man-sik is cursing in the tea house because he has nothing to take back to the capital. Taemin stood up. He walked over. He sat down across from him. Kwon Man-sik looked at him, a country boy. His clothes are simple but clean. His eyes aren't those of a country boy. Taemin said he has 5 kernels, whole ones, no cracks, no chips, and that he can supply 3 or 4 a month, consistently, at a price 10% below the market rate in Hassan. Kwon Man-sik stopped drinking his tea. He looked at the guy more closely. He asked where he was from. Taemin said from Solimgol. Kwon Man-sik didn't know what that was. Taemin said it was a hunting village 2 days' journey to the south, that he was the head of a hunting cooperative, that he had 8 hunters and a full stockpile. Kwon Man-sik asked why not through the guild. Taemin said the guild takes 40% for handling the core. He's offering to go without a middleman, directly. Kwon Man-sik was silent. He thought it over. Then he asked where the quality guarantee was. Taemin took a core out of his bag, a moon rabbit. He placed it on the table. Whole, smooth, silvery, not a single scratch. Kwon Man-sik picked it up, turned it over, held it up to the light, scratched it with his fingernail, put it back down. He asked how many of these he had right now. Taemin said 5, 3 moon rabbits, 1 moon fox, 1 moon roe deer, all intact. Kwon Man-sik named a price, 5% below market value. Taemin said no. Market value minus 10.
Kwon Man-sik replied that in that case, there was no point in Taemin trading outside the guild. Taemin said the point wasn't the 10%, it's about stability. 3 or 4 cores a month, every month, without interruption. Whole, clean. Kwon Man-sik was silent. He supplied the royal arsenal. He needed a reliable supplier. So Guan's quality was hit or miss. Half the cores had cracks. But this guy from the village puts a perfect core on the table and promises 3 a month. Deal. Market price minus 8%. 3 to 5 cores a month. Delivery to Hassan. Kwon Man-sik picks them up and takes them to the capital himself. Payment upon delivery. Rice, salt, silver. Your choice. Taemin chose silver. For the first time. Rice and salt are for survival. Silver is for development. Kwon Man-sik took the 5 cores. He counted out the silver, 15 coins. Taemin held them in his palm. Heavy, cold. The king's profile on each one. 15 silver coins is half the annual income of an average family in Hassan. For 5 cores, which he had mined in a month. On the way back, Yoon Bi walked beside him. She was silent. Then she asked what he would do about the debt. Taemin replied that he would pay it. She stopped. She looked at him. He explained, A debt by receipt, 3 sacks of millet with interest. In silver, that's 2 coins. He has 15. He'll pay the debt. The receipt is voided. So Guan loses his leverage. She asked about the rest, the distribution channels, the rumors. Taemin said the channels are different now. Quan Man Sik is the capital. He is the crown. So Guan won't touch the crown's supplier. He wouldn't dare. Rumors? There's only one cure for rumors. Results. When cannonballs from Solim Gol are sent to the royal arsenal, rumors of evil spirits and filth sound ridiculous. Yoon Bi was silent. Then she said he was thinking too far ahead. He replied that an archer always aims beyond the target. An arrow flies in a parabolic arc. If you aim for the spot, you'll hit below it. You have to aim higher. She looked at him for a long time. Then she smiled slightly, the first time in his presence. They returned to Solim Gol. Taemin gathered the men. He explained, a new buyer, the capital, silver. The debt will be paid. No contract with the guild is needed. The men listened. Their expressions changed. Fear receded. Not quickly, but it was fading. Taemin sent Cho Hyun-tae via messenger with 2 silver coins and a receipt marked paid. The reply came a week later. Brief. Guildmaster So Guan had accepted the payment. The debt issue was closed. The contract issue remained open. Taemin read it. He placed the letter on the table. So Guan wouldn't give up. The debt was just one move. There would be others. But for now, Taemin had won the round. And he had the silver. 13 coins. He knew exactly what he would spend them on. 13 coins would buy a blacksmith's forge, an anvil, coal, and a notice at the Hassan market. Solim Gol is looking for a blacksmith, room and board, a share of the profits. Blacksmithing tools await. That evening, Cho Ran sat on the roof of his house. She loved rooftops. The blacksmith arrived in the 3rd week. Not from Hassan. No one from Hassan had responded. So Guan took care of it. The ad was taken down from the market wall on the very first day. The blacksmith came from the south, from Chungcheong province. His name was Park Taemin, 62 years old, skinny as a stick, with hands where every vein was visible beneath the skin. He came on foot with a hammer slung over his shoulder. The hammer was heavier than he was, or so it seemed. Park Taemin was a master, a former master. The Kim clan had driven him out of the capital's smithy 5 years ago. He didn't say why. He only said he'd heard of a village that needed a blacksmith and where they offered a share of the profits rather than a handout. Taemin showed him the tools, the forge, the anvil, the coal. The old man examined each item, silently. Then he said the forge was shoddy. The anvil was good. The coal would do. Taemin asked what was needed for a good forge. The old man listed it off. A specific kind of stone, clay, bellows, a chimney. Taemin nodded. 3 days later, everything was ready. Chun-ho found the stone by the northern stream. 2 of the newcomers needed the clay. Pae Gyum-hee sewed the bellows from deer hide. Park Taemin himself forged the pipe from the iron that Moon Hak-soo had brought in the last shipment. The furnace was ready in a week. The old man lit the first fire. The flame roared in the pipe. Park Taemin took a piece of iron. He placed it in the furnace. He waited. He took it out. Red, glowing. He placed it on the anvil. He raised the hammer. A blow. A ringing sound spread throughout the village. Clear, even. The iron obeyed. The old man struck, and the iron bent under his hands like dough. An hour later, a blade lay on the anvil. Taemin picked it up. Heavy. Even. The edges were sharp. The tip was like a needle. He ran his finger along the blade and cut himself, without even pressing down. It wasn't a spearhead. It was a weapon. Hong Sik stood nearby and watched. His spearheads were good. This one was on another level. Taemin looked at Park Taemin. The old man was wiping his hands and wasn't looking at anyone, like a man who doesn't need approval because he knows the value of his own work. A week later, An Ji-eun came to the old man. Taemin didn't know where she'd come from.
One morning, a girl was just sitting by the forge, 16 years old, small, grimy, with scorched fingers. She sat and watched as Park Taemin forged, silently, for 3 hours. The old man didn't rush her. He didn't notice, or pretended not to notice. On the 4th hour, she asked why he held the hammer that way and not another. The old man stopped. He looked at her, for the first time. He asked where she was from. She said from Hassan, blacksmithing school. They kicked her out because she was a girl. She said her spearheads were better than the master's sons. They kicked her out anyway. Park Taemin was silent. Then he handed her the hammer, a small one, a hand hammer. He said, "Show me." She took a piece of iron, put it in the forge, waited, took it out, began to strike. The old man watched. 20 minutes later, a spearhead lay on the anvil, rough, a little crooked, but the shape was right, the tempering was right. For a 16-year-old girl who went to a school where they didn't want her, that was more than good enough. Park Taemin took the spearhead. He examined it. Then he said that tomorrow at 6 in the morning, if she was late, she shouldn't come. She wasn't late, not once, in 2 months. Every morning at 6, by the forge, with a hammer. The old man taught. She absorbed it all. Taemin watched, and after a month, he made a decision. In the growing workshop district, he set up a separate little smithy for An Ji-yoon. 4 walls, a roof, a forge, an anvil. Above the door, he carved her name on a board. An K, An's forge. She stood in front of the door and read it. Then she read it again. Then she turned to Taemin. He said she would have an apprentice. In a week, a boy from one of the new families, 14 years old. He wants to learn to forge. He'll call her teacher. An Ji-yoon opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, said she was still an apprentice herself. Taemin replied that the best way to learn is to teach. She blinked. Then her face did something strange. It was trying to cry and laugh at the same time. Laughter won out. Ringing, loud, echoing through the whole village. Che-ran poked her head out of the dugout and asked who had been killed. An Ji-yoon turned to her and pointed to the sign above the door. Che-ran read it. Then she said the letters were crooked. An Ji-yoon stuck her tongue out at her. 3 days later, a student came to see An Ji-yoon, a boy named Sim Chul. He walked into the smithy. He saw a girl who was half a head shorter than him. She told him his first task was to learn how to hold a hammer. He asked, "Who are you?" She replied that she was the teacher. He looked at her, at the sign, at the forge, at the spearheads on the wall that she had forged over the course of a week, and he said, "All right, teacher," without a smirk. The 8th month, deep autumn, the leaves had fallen, the trees stood bare, 2 weeks until snow. In Solemgol, 60 people, 15 families, workshops, a school, a clinic, a smithy, 2 smokehouses. The warehouse is full, 200 arrows in reserve, 10 archers. Taemin stood on a hill behind the village and looked north. Che-ran stood beside him. She was listening. Her ears twitched slightly, like a cat's. She said she could hear something, far away, to the north. Many. Taemin asked what. She said beasts, many beasts, heading south. Not a herd, a wave. The first wave of the distorted this winter. The wave lasted 3 days, small ones at first, moon rabbits, dozens. They ran through the forest without a clear path. They weren't hunting, they were running from something chasing them. Then the moon foxes, in packs of 5 or 6, each with 3 tails, eyes wild, saliva dripping onto the snow and hissing. Poison. Then the moon deer. Their antlers glowed in the night like torches. The ground shook beneath their hooves. Then silence. A day. 2. Silence is worse than noise. Silence means the small fry are gone, and now the big game is coming. On the 4th day, the moon wolves came. A pack, 9 of them, each the size of a calf. Under the skin, each had 3 hearts. Hard to kill. Even with an arrow through the head, a wolf runs for another 30 seconds on its 2 remaining hearts. Taemin had been preparing for a week. From the moment Che-ran heard the wave, he knew it would come. Every winter. It had been that way for 200 years since the rift opened. The beasts came from the north in waves. The first in winter, the weakest. The second in midwinter, stronger. The third in spring, the most terrifying. Usually, villages like Solimgol didn't even survive the first one. They locked themselves in their homes. They prayed. They hoped the wave would pass them by. Sometimes it did. Sometimes it didn't. Taemin wasn't going to hope. He was going to shoot. The plan was simple. No, the plan was complex. But every part of the plan was simple. The perimeter. A palisade of sharpened logs around the village. Not very, just over a meter. The moon wolf would jump over it. But the palisade would slow him down for a second. A second is a shot. A ditch, shallow, half a meter, in front of the palisade. The wolf jumps over the ditch, lands in front of the palisade, loses his run-up, jumps over the palisade, loses another second, 2 seconds, 2 shots. Positions, 4 points on the rooftops, north, south, east, west. A shooter at each point. Taemin in the north, Yoon-bi in the east, Hong-gil in the west, Oh Seong-woo in the south. Park Do-ho runs between the points. He hands out arrows. He counts the beasts. Cho-ran is on the ground, between the palisade and the houses. She is the only one who can face the moon wolf in close combat and survive. Her claws cut through skin that a knife cannot pierce. Lee Hae-won. Taemin has stopped. Lee Hae-won. He didn't write that name. She arrived 2 days before the wave, without warning. A tall woman with short hair and a knife scar on her left cheek. She was carrying a boy of about 12 on her shoulders, unconscious, 4 parallel jagged marks on his leg, the moon wolf's claws. She entered the village. She saw the clinic. She carried the boy to Nam Sol. Nam Sol accepted him without a word. She began to work. She washed the wound. She applied herbs. She bandaged it. Lee Hae-won stood by the door and watched. When Nam Sol finished, Lee Hae-won said she would stay for the day, until the boy came to. The day dragged on. Taemin spoke with her in the evening, by the fire. She spoke little, answered briefly. A former scout, formally dead according to the Crown's records. She didn't say how or why. He didn't ask. He asked one thing. Did she know how to set up sentries? She looked at him. For a long time. Then she said she'd been doing it for 10 years. He said he needed someone to guard the settlement. Watches, patrol routes, a signaling system. She asked who they were guarding against. He said everyone. She nodded. Didn't smile. She didn't ask why. She just nodded. 2 days before the wave, she walked the perimeter. She pointed out the weak spots. 3. The northwest corner where the palisade was thinner. The southern slope where the moat was too shallow. The eastern side where the forest comes close and a wolf could leap from a tree over the palisade. Taemin fixed all 3 in a day. In the northwest, they added a row of stakes. In the south, they deepened the moat. In the east, they cut down trees 30 paces from the wall. Lee Hae-won set up a system of signal fires, 3 bonfires, 1 on the northern hill, 1 on the eastern, 1 on the western. Lookouts. Boys from the school, not archers, runners. Park Do-ho in the north, 2 more in the east and west. He spotted the beast, lit the fire. Everyone knows where it's coming from. The wave came at night. Park Do-ho lit the northern fire. Taemin saw the light. He roused the village. 3 minutes. Everyone in position. Children and elders in the elders' house. Stone walls, heavy door. Nam Sol with them, with a box of herbs and tools. Archers on the roofs. Cho-ran below. Lee Hae-won at the eastern gate, with a sword, a short one, left-handed grip. Taemin noticed the grip, left-handed, unconventional. Sheath on the right hip, standard, under the right hand. She drew it with a delay. He remembered. Later. Now. Wolves. They came out of the forest. Taemin saw them in the moonlight. 9 shadows, swift, silent. Their silvery fur glistened. Their eyes were red. 3 hearts beneath the ribs, 9 wolves, 4 archers, 1 Choran, 1 Lee Hae-won. The first wolf leaped over the ditch, landed, leaped onto the stockade. A second. Taemin fired, in the eye. The wolf twitched on the stakes, fell on this side, dead, with a single shot. Because the eye is the brain, and the brain is death. 3 hearts won't help without a head. The second wolf, Yoon B, a shot, in the throat. The wolf fell, twitched, stood up. 2 hearts, Yoon B fired again, in the head. The wolf fell, didn't get up. Third, fourth, Hong Gil fired, hit the side. The wolf didn't even slow down, jumped over the stockade. Below, Chae-ran, she met him. A leap, claws, a growl. The wolf and the lynx in the snow, a tangle of silver and gray fur. Chae-ran clamped her teeth into its throat. Claws tore at the hide. The wolf screamed. She wouldn't let go. Hong Gil fired again, in the head, from above. The wolf went limp. Chae-ran crawled out from under him, blood on her face. Not hers. His. The fifth, the sixth, the seventh. Taemin fired. Yoon B fired. Oh Sung-woo fired and missed, and fired again, and hit. Lee Hae-won slashed, a short sword in her left hand, quickly, precisely. A wolf leaped at her. She stepped aside, spun around. The blade sliced through the beast's throat. Blood on the snow. The wolf fell, got up. 2 hearts. She struck again, at the base of the skull. It fell, did not get up. The 8th wolf circled the palisade from the south. There stood Oh Seong-woo, 12 years old, broad-shouldered, with a bow and hands that were trembling. The wolf leaped. Seong-woo shot, hit, in the deg. The wolf rolled and stood 3 paces from the boy, its mouth open, 3 rows of teeth. Sun-woo stood on the roof and looked at the beast, which was bigger than him. He didn't run. He knocked a second arrow. His hands were shaking. He shot, in the forehead. The wolf jerked its head. The arrow slid along the skull. It didn't pierce it. The wolf leaped onto the roof. Sun-woo fell. The bow flew from his hands. The wolf was above him, its jaws. The arrow entered the wolf's ear from the side, from the darkness. Taemin, 60 paces, in the ear, in the dark, on the run. The wolf collapsed next to Sun-woo. The boy lay there and looked at the dead beast. He was breathing. He wasn't crying. He was breathing. The 9th wolf, the last one, the largest, the leader. He didn't leap over the palisade. He stood by the forest, watching, red eyes. Taemin stood on the north roof and watched him, 70 paces. The news spread within a week. Solam Gol had held out, not a single casualty. 8 moon-wolf cores. A moon-wolf core cost twice as much as a bear's. 3 hearts, a silver pelt, a rarity, 8 of them. Kwan Man-sik came in person, for the first time, from Hassan with 4 carts and 12 guards. He looked at the palisade, at the moat, at the roofs with the archers' positions, at the wolf pelts stretched on frames. He looked at Taemin, said he now understood why the cores had no cracks. They agreed. 8 cores, silver, a lot of silver. Taemin didn't count in front of others. Later, alone in the house, he recounted it. 80 coins, a small merchant's annual income in Hassan, in a single night. Kwan Man-sik said something else. In the capital, people were talking about Solam Gol, not loudly, in whispers. The guy from the backwater who takes down the distorted with a single shot. The village that survived the wave without a single casualty. The word reached the people who listened to such things. Taemin asked which people. Kwan Man-sik hesitated. Then he said, all sorts. He left. Taemin stood there thinking. The capital is listening. That's both good and bad. Good because Sogwan will be afraid to touch the one they're talking about at court. Bad because there are people at court more dangerous than Sogwan.
After the wave, people poured into Solimgol. 30 families in a month. Refugees. From Mokpo, where no one was left. From Kimsanni, where few remained. From hamlets and villages that winter ravaged every year. They were heading toward the light, on a hunch, to a place where people don't die. By the end of the 9th month, 150 people lived in Solimgol. It was no longer a village. Taemin looked at the new houses, at the 2nd street, at the 3rd, at the districts that were taking shape on their own. Workshops in one place, the smithy, the archers, Begumhi and the seamstresses, smokehouses and warehouses in another, Namsol's clinic and garden in the 3rd, the dugouts on the eastern outskirts, Cheran and 5 from the forest clans, a fox cub, a badger, 3 more who had arrived over the winter. Structure. It emerged on its own, like a crystal in a solution. Taemin simply gave it form. One evening he sat with 4 women, Yunbi, Cheran, Namso, Lee Hae-won. So Hyun-ah hadn't arrived yet. He was talking about the districts, about how everyone needs a person, not a boss, a manager. Someone who knows what the people in this district need and can provide it without running to Taemin for every decision. Yunbi was given the workshops, the archery district. She knew arrows, she knew bows, she knew the craftsmen. They listened to her because she shot better than anyone except Taemin. Cho-ran was given the eastern outskirts, the beast hunting district, beastmen, her people. She understood them. They listened to her, no questions asked. Nam-sol was given the herb district, the infirmary, the garden, everything related to health and herbs. She already had 3 apprentices. Lee Hae-won was given security, watches, patrols, the palisade, signal fires, walls. She didn't rule the district, she ruled the perimeter. 4 women, 4 areas, not because they were his women, because they were the best. He knew it, they knew it, the village knew it. The 10th month, the 2nd wave, midwinter, worse than the first. 2 moon bears, 15 wolves, a pack of moon foxes, and a creature no one had ever seen before. The moon deer leader, huge. Its antlers glowed so brightly it hurt to look at them. Its hooves left melted tracks in the snow. Taemin stood on the wall. Yes, a wall. In the month between the waves, they had built a wall. Not a palisade, a wall. Stone and wood, 2 meters high, with platforms for archers. Lee Hae-won designed it. Taemin built it. The whole village built it. 150 people. Everyone hauled stones. Everyone mixed clay. Everyone laid at least 1 stone. Their wall. Their town. The battle lasted 3 hours. 20 archers on the walls. Che-ran and 5 half-beasts below as a mobile reserve. Lee Hae-won coordinated. Taemin shot. Yun-bi shot beside him, on the left, as always, covering his blind spot. She had become a different archer over the past year. The quiet, silent girl who used to shoot secretly from behind the barn had become an archer who, from the wall, took down wolves from 40 paces without blinking. 3 shots, 3 wolves. She didn't count, so Hyun-ah did. She had arrived 3 weeks ago, so Hyun-ah, the youngest daughter of a collateral branch of the So clan, an inspector for cooperative affairs. In reality, a spy whom her own clan wanted to get rid of. 22 years old, educated, cold, with ink on her fingers and a ledger under her arm. She came to count and report. Taemin knew. She knew that he knew. They both kept quiet about it. He gave her access to everything, the warehouse, the records, the workshops, the school, without restrictions. She checked for 3 days. On the 4th, she came to him. She said that his bookkeeping on birch bark was a disgrace, that the numbers were correct, but the formatting was monstrous, that she would rewrite everything, on normal paper, with normal columns. Taemin said, "Please." She rewrote it, in a week. The ledger, thick in a leather-bound volume she'd brought with her. Every line, every number, income, expenses, balance, profit, debt, zero. Everything added up. She placed the ledger on the table in front of him. He opened it. He leafed through it, closed it. Said that the Solemn trading house needed a manager, with signing authority, with a seal, with a share of the profits. She froze. Asked if he was offering her the job. He said yes. Don't work for me. It's yours. A report once a month. No more often. She was silent. For 3 days, she checked to see if there was a catch.
She asked Yoon Bi, Namsol, even Cho Ran. There was no catch. On the 4th day, she sat down at a desk in the trading house. She picked up a brush, dipped it in ink, and began to write. The first document of the Solemn trading house, a contract to supply 100 arrows to Hassan, with a seal, with her signature. Taemin stood by the door and watched. Then he left. He didn't need to stand over her. She could handle it. He knew that before she even knew it herself. They survived the second wave. No casualties. 2 bears, 15 wolves, a pack of foxes, the moon deer leader, all of them. Taemin killed the deer leader with a single shot, in the eye, through the gap between its antlers, 70 paces, at night. A bullet the size of 2 fists, silver, pulsating. Spring of the 2nd year, Solemn, not a village, a town. 300 souls, 4 districts, a wall around the perimeter, 25 marksmen. Baek Taegon's smithy and An K's smithy. Grandfather Cho's 2 smokehouses. So Hyun A's trading house. Nam Sol's clinic with a garden and 4 apprentices. Lee Hae-won's patrols. Yoon Bi's workshops. Cho Ran's beast-keeping quarter with 12 half-beasts. The archery school with 20 students. Taemin stood on the wall and looked at it all. A year. 1 year. With a single arrow and a single bore. Chun-ho stood nearby. He was silent. Then he said he didn't believe it. Taemin asked what he didn't believe. Chung-ho said he didn't believe any of it. That there used to be 8 houses. That people ate once every 2 days. That for 30 years he'd considered himself the best hunter in the village and was proud of it. And now, at the archery school, 15-year-old girls shoot better than he does. He said this without bitterness, with something resembled surprise. Taemin replied that those girls shot better because Chung-ho had fed them for 30 years. Without him, there would be no village. Without the village, there would be no school. Chun-ho snorted. But for the first time, there was warmth in his snort. The 3rd wave came in the middle of spring, the most terrifying one. 3 days. Dozens of the distorted. Moon bears, wolves, creatures whose names Taemin didn't know. A creature with 6 legs and a shell from which bone spikes protruded. A beast resembling a boar but the size of a horse, with a horn of pure silver on its forehead. A flock of birds with a wingspan of 3 meters and a screech that made clay pots shatter. Taemin hadn't slept for 3 nights. He shot. He coordinated. He stationed Yoon Bi on the left flank, Lee Hae-won on patrol, Chu Ran in ambush, Nam Sol in the rear with medicine. So Hyun Ah keeping track of the arrows, An Ji-yoon doing repairs. Baek Tae-gon forged arrowheads without stopping. The old man hadn't slept for 2 days. He hammered the iron and felt no fatigue, or at least he didn't show it. Hong Sik was passing arrows up to the walls, limping, running. Grandpa Cho stood by the cauldron, cooking stew for the fighters, because a hungry archer misses his mark. Everyone in their place, everyone doing their part. Taemin stood on the wall and fired 1 shot after another, each one on target, in the eye, in the ear, in the mouth, in the gap between the armor plates. The system clicked continuously, plus, plus, plus. His body was burning, not from fatigue, from something else. With every click, something inside flared brighter, like coals being fanned by bellows. On the third night, the climax. A creature from the depths, nameless, the size of a house, 8 legs, a body covered in silver scales, a head like a snake's with 4 eyes. It walked toward the wall, and the ground shook. Arrows bounced off its scales. Yoon-bi shot at its eyes. She hit one. The creature roared and didn't stop. Chui-ran leaped at it. Her claws slid across the scales. Lee Hae-won slashed. The sword wouldn't cut through. Taemin stood on the wall, watching, thinking. 1 second. When the creature opened its mouth to roar, he saw it. The roof of its mouth, soft, pink, just like that bear's a year ago, but deeper, further. Something glowed in the darkness of the throat, the core, not in the chest, in the throat. He took aim, 80 paces. The creature was moving, its mouth open. 2 seconds, he counted in his mind. The core, in the throat, right at it. Exhale, release. The arrow flew. It entered the mouth, passed through the throat, struck the core. The core cracked. The creature froze, entirely, completely, as if someone had flipped a switch. The silver scales went dark. 8 legs bent. The creature collapsed. The wall shook. Silence. Then a scream. Not of terror, of joy. The wall was screaming. People were screaming. 300 people who hadn't slept for 3 nights and had been afraid for 3 nights stood on the wall and screamed because they were alive. Taemin sat on the wall. His legs wouldn't hold him. His hands were shaking. The bow lay nearby. The bowstring snapped on the last shot. He had shot the bow with a snapped string. No, the string snapped afterward. At the moment of the shot, it was intact, but its strength had run out on that very shot, the last arrow from the last bow. Yoon-bi approached. She sat down beside him, silently, shoulder to shoulder, on the left, always on the left. He turned his head. She was looking straight ahead. Then she turned. Their faces were close. She said nothing. He said nothing. She rested her head on his shoulder, closed her eyes, fell asleep. 10 seconds later, like a person who hadn't slept for 3 nights and could finally rest, Taemin sat motionless, because on his shoulder slept the man to whom he entrusted his left side, and that was worth more than words. Spring. Solem stood. 300 alive, not a single dead. 3 waves over the winter, and not a single casualty. When the surrounding villages were counted, the losses numbered in the hundreds. Entire settlements wiped out. And Solem, standing. The royal messenger arrived a week after the 3rd wave, alone, on a fine horse, in the uniform of the palace guard, with a letter, sealed with red wax, with a crane imprint. Not the So clan, higher, the crown. The letter was short. King Koryo invites Lord Park Taemin to a council on the northern threat, the capital, in a month. Taemin read the letter, then reread it, then folded it and put it away. He looked at Lee Hae-won. She was standing by the wall. Her face was pale. She knew. He could see that she knew. Something about this invitation, about the capital, about the rift, about what lies behind it all. She didn't say anything. He waited. She said one thing. Be careful. He nodded. Preparations begin in a week. Taemin takes Yoon-bi with him. Lee Hae-won. So-hyun-ah. Yoon-bi because she is his shadow and his right-hand woman. Lee Hae-won because she knows the capital and knows dangers he doesn't. So-hyun-ah because she knows the clans and court protocol, and because she has a ledger in which everything is recorded, and this ledger is a weapon no weaker than a bow. Che-ran stays behind, to defend the city, the capital of Goryeo, Hanyang, walls of white stone, roofs with curved corners covered in dark tiles, wide streets, people in silk, palanquins, horses, guards in lacquered armor. Taemin walked down the main street and felt just as he had on his first day in this world, a stranger. Yoon-bi walked on the left, as always, a bow on her back, a stony face. She looked at the city and gave nothing away. Lee Hae-won walked on the right, hood pulled down, scar hidden. She knew these streets. Taemin could tell by the way she moved. She didn't look back. She wasn't surprised. She walked as if home, or to a place that had been home and was no longer. So Hyun-ah walked behind, ledger under her arm, back straight, chin up. She is home. This is her world. Clans, silk,
Protocol. She is the only one of them who knows how to bow to the king. The palace. Red walls, golden cranes on the gates. The guards let them through upon seeing the letter. The inner courtyard, the garden, stones, trees trimmed into the shape of clouds, a pond with fish, the throne room. Taemin entered. The hall is enormous. The ceiling is 4 men high, dark wood columns, a stone floor, and people, 100, maybe more. Aristocrats, clan leaders, generals, advisors, all in silk, all with swords, all looking at him. At the guy in a deerskin hunting jacket with a bow on his back. Taemin walked through the hall and heard whispers. A bumpkin, a hunter, a boy, an upstart. He walked on, not hearing them. 20 years in competitions, eyes on him, judges, cameras, stands. He was used to shooting while people watched him. The throne platform. A chair, not a throne, a chair, simple, wooden. And the man in it, the king of Goryeo. Not old, not young, about 45, a gaunt face, piercing eyes, slender fingers on the armrests. Taemin stopped. He bowed. So Hyuna had taught him. 3 steps forward, a bow, right hand on his chest, left behind his back, eyes down, stand up, wait. The king watched, silently. Then he spoke. His voice was soft, but everyone in the hall heard him. He said he was glad to see the man the whole province was talking about, that he'd heard about Solim. About the walls, about the archers, about the 3 waves without any losses. He said he was impressed. Taemin replied that he was lucky to have such people. The king smiled slightly. Then his face grew serious. He said that the council on the northern threat was no mere formality, that the waves were growing stronger every year, that the provinces were losing villages by the dozen, that the capital didn't know how to stop it, and that he needed people who did. Taemin listened. Then he spoke. About the defense system, about the walls, about archery schools, about drive hunts, about proper butchering that turns 1 beast into 10 solved problems, about logistics, about supplies, about how every village could do what Solim did if shown how. The hall listened, some with interest, some with a smirk. So Guan stood in the 3rd row. Taemin saw him. About 50 years old, thin, with intelligent eyes, his face expressionless. But his hands were clasped behind his back, tightly, white knuckles. He was nervous. Taemin continued speaking, about how the monopoly on cores is killing the provinces, that hunters sell for a pittance because they have no choice, that the guilds take 40% for nothing, that if the villages are given direct access to the market, they will hunt more and better, and there would be more cores, and they would be cheaper. The hall buzzed. So Guan turned pale. Taemin didn't look at him. He looked at the king. The king listened. His face was inscrutable. Then he raised his hand. Silence. He said that words were fine, but he wanted to see. They say Mr. Park kills the twisted with a single shot. Will he demonstrate? The hall came alive. The aristocrats began whispering. Taemin understood. A spectacle. They want a spectacle. The doors at the far end of the hall opened. 4 guards rolled in a cage, an iron one, heavy. Inside was the moonwolf, alone, not a pack, alone. Skinny, dirty, with a broken front paw. His fur was dull, his eyes were lifeless. The evil within him barely smoldered. The beast had been caught, locked up, starving. They had brought him for entertainment. The hall was in anticipation. 100 aristocrats in silk wanted to see a country hunter kill a bound beast. Taemin looked at the wolf. The wolf looked at him. Red eyes, dull, tired. There was no fury in them. There was submission, a beast that had stopped fighting. Taemin stood and watched. The hall waited. 1 second, 2, 3. Yunbi stood behind him. She saw his shoulders. They weren't moving toward the bow. Lee Hae-won stood by the wall. Her hand rested on her sword, not because of the wolf, because of the people. So Hyun-ah stood next to a column, the ledger pressed to her chest. She was counting. The glances, the odds, who was for, who was against, who was waiting. Taemin turned to the king. The hall fell silent. Taemin spoke, quietly, but loud enough to be heard all the way to the back row. He said he wouldn't shoot at someone who was wounded and bound. The hall froze. He continued. He said that if the king wanted to see what he was capable of, he should let the beast go into the forest. Taemin would catch up and take it fairly. Or he wouldn't. That was the beast's prerogative. Silence. Absolute. The kind of silence that happens when 100 people forget to breathe at the same time. An aristocrat in the front row opened his mouth. Someone in the second row dropped a fan. Sagwan stood in the third row, his expression shifting. Slowly, he understood what had just happened.
A village boy had just refused the king, in front of 100 aristocrats, not rudely, not defiantly, calmly. And in that calmness was something that made So Guan understand. Park Taemin is not a hunter. Park Taemin is the power he has lost. Not in the marketplace, not in trade. Here, in this hall, in this moment of silence. Because a man who refuses to shoot a bound beast in the presence of the king is a man who cannot be bought and cannot be broken. He can only be killed. And one cannot kill the supplier of the royal arsenal and the hero of the 3 waves in front of the court. The king was silent for a long time. 5 seconds. 10. The hall held its breath. Then the king smiled, slowly, broadly. He said he hadn't heard anything like this in this hall in a long time. He said that Solim would be granted city status, official, with the right to self-governance, with the right to trade without intermediaries, with the right to maintain a marksmanship school, and that Mr. Park Taemin would be appointed royal hunting advisor to the northern province, with the right to vote on the council regarding the northern threat. The hall buzzed. So Guan stood in the third row and said nothing. His face was pale. His hands were behind his back. He had just lost his monopoly. Not because Taemin had defeated him, because Taemin had been playing a different game. Not for trade, for honor. And he had won. Taemin bowed to the king, turned around, walked toward the exit. Yun Bi walked on his left, Lee Hae-won on his right. So Hyun-ah was behind them. The hall parted. At the palace exit, Lee Hae-won stopped. Taemin stopped. She stood and looked at the city, at the walls, at the sky. Then she turned to him and spoke, quietly, just for him. She said she knew about the rift, that the rift was not a natural phenomenon, that 200 years ago, the first king made a pact with something that lives beyond the moon, that the price of the pact was a beast and another price. Once every few generations, a marksman comes from another world. His task is to reach the rift and close it, or to become the key that will keep the rift open for another 100 years. Taemin listened. His heart beat steadily. He wasn't surprised. Somewhere deep down, he knew. From that first evening when he saw the silver streak in the sky and something resonated. The system. A well-aimed shot, not a gift, a leash. Every boost brings him closer to the rift. Every click of the system is a step toward the point of no return. Lee Hae-won said that in the temple outside the city, a black arrow lies on the altar, with his name on the shaft, in a language no one in Goryeo remembers. She said that the arrow had begun to glow. Today, when he refused to shoot the bound wolf. Taemin was silent. Then he asked how she knew. She said she had been a royal scout for 10 years, that her mission was to find the archer, and that she had found him, and she fell silent. Because if he finds out, he'll go and die. He looked at her, at the scar on her cheek, at her short hair, at the eyes that had held a secret for 10 years, a secret that burned her every day. He said he wasn't going to die. She said all the archers said that. He asked how many there were. She said 3, over 200 years. All 3 made it to the rift. Not a single one returned. He said those 3 went alone. He has Yun Bi, Cho Ran, Nam Sol, So Hyun-ah, An Ji-eun, Lee Hae-won,
Chun-ho. 300 people who survived 3 waves. The city he built with a single arrow. He said he wouldn't go alone, and he wouldn't go now. First, Salem would become a city of 10,000. First, archery schools in every village in the province. First, the walls. First, the roads. First, the people. Then, the rift. She looked at him for a long time. Then she said he was the first shooter who didn't run straight to the rift. He replied that he wasn't a shooter. He was a coach. And a coach prepares the team first and only then takes the field. She closed her eyes. When she opened them, there was no mystery in them. There was weariness. 10 years of weariness. And something else. Relief. He pulled a holster from behind his belt. New ones. He'd made them 2 weeks ago. For her left-handed grip, so she could draw it without hesitation. He held it out to her. She took it, looked at it, tried it on her right hip, drew the sword, quickly, without hesitation. Left hand, left-handed grip. Her grip. She looked at the scabbard, at him. He said what he always said. These aren't standard. They're for Lee Hae-won, who has a left-handed grip and a scar on her right side that pulls the skin and prevents her from turning her head to the right. She swallowed. Silently, she put on the scabbard. They left the city at sunset, the 4 of them. Taemin, Yoon-bi, Lee Hae-won, So-hyun-ah. Ahead lay the road north. 2 days' journey, home. Solem. Yoon-bi walked on the left, Lee Hae-won on the right. So-hyun-ah slightly behind, carrying a ledger in which the terms of the royal decree had already been recorded. Taemin walked and thought about the rift, about the black arrow, about the choice he faced, to seal the rift at the cost of his life, or to become the key, or to find a third option. He always found a third option, a pine tree instead of an arrow and a boar, a pen instead of a head-on charge against the deer, a merchant from the capital instead of war with the clan, honor instead of shooting a bound wolf. A third option. He would find it. Not now, later. First, home. First, So-yun, who's waiting at the door and will tell him not to do anything stupid. First, his mother, who'll say just one word. First, Cho-ran on the roof, who'll snort and say he's been gone too long. First, Nam-sol, who will brew him some tea and say nothing because she doesn't need words. First, An Ji-yoon, who'll show him a new arrowhead and wait until he says it's good. First, Chun-ho, who'll snort and ask, "So, how was the capital?" And Taemin will answer that the capital is the capital, and home is home, and Chun-ho will nod. Behind them, in the temple, on the altar, a black arrow glowed with a steady, warm light. Not cold, not deathly, warm, like a fire in the hearth, like Nam-sol's hands on a wound, like So-yun's fingers on the palm of his hand, like the smile of Yoon-bi, which he saw once and remembered forever. The arrow was waiting. It had waited 200 years. It would wait some more, because the archer had finally arrived. And he was in no hurry. He was a coach. First, he would line up his men. Then he would shoot. Once. At the right moment. At the right spot. And everything that had been built up over the years would fall like dominoes. The road led north. The snow on the mountain passes was already melting. Spring. A second spring. Summer ahead. Autumn. Winter. Years. A rift.